And this evening's school board awards and presentations. I ask that out of respect to everyone, please silence your devices at this time. I'd like to call the meeting to order. The time is 5:30. And I'd like to recognize Superintendent of the Year for the state of Florida, Dr. David K. Moore.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I feel bad because that presentation starts at 6, so give us a minute, please. We do have a number of presentations, and I'll turn it over to our Public Information Officer, Ms. Maddox, to present those presentations.
Good evening. Thank you all so much for being here tonight. It means so much to have everyone here in the room together, and we hope that you enjoyed the reception and the desserts from our culinary arts students at Vero Beach High School and Sebastian River High School. So let's give them a round of applause. And of course, we have their instructors, Mr. Burson and Chef Hodge. So Chef Burson and Chef Hodge, if we can give them a round of applause as well. So tonight we have a few different presentations, and the first presentation I'm going to ask for Mr. Bruce Green, our CFO, to come up and recognize our internal accounts perfect audits. That was a mouthful.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm going to ask our Director of Finance, Kim Copeman, to come up with me as well. You know we have a large district budget, but what you might not know is each school individually manages a budget internally. It's called internal accounts. Things like athletic funds and yearbooks and fees and all of those things get collected. And there are individuals at our school that handle over $2 million a year, receipts and writing checks to people, and it's a constant day-to-day operation, and they do a fantastic job. And board, in your December meeting, you approved the internal accounts audit. We have it audited like everything else. We are public, transparent, and we go through audits. And part of that audit is just making sure that we're following the procedures and routine and handling the money properly and following our guidebook. So out of that, there were some individuals who had some perfect audits, not a single audit finding after a year of all those transactions on a day-to-day basis. So we want to recognize those tonight. There are other schools, I just want to say, that had 1 or 2 findings, which is phenomenal, so we recognize them as well. But we want to start with Treasure Coast Technical College Principal Christy Shields and bookkeeper Kimber Savita. Come on up. Congratulations. Oslo Middle School Principal Richard Morgan and bookkeeper Sherry DeLiso, who I don't think could be with us tonight, correct? Thank you. All right, come on up.
She's out balancing the books.
She's balancing the books, that's it. Treasure Coast Elementary School, 2nd consecutive year in a row. Principal Jeremy Keene and bookkeeper Barbara Noguera Harrell. And I saw Barb, I know she's here. There we go, and Jeremy. Congratulations.
Well done, well done.
2nd consecutive year in a row, Citrus Elementary School. Principal Tasha Jones and Administrative Assistant Beth Dunton.
Look at that.
And I can't wait to see what the shirt's going to look like this year, but 3rd consecutive year in a row.
Again?
I don't know if I've done that before. 3rd consecutive year in a row, Indian River Academy. Principal Kimberly Rahal and Administrative Assistant Elizabeth Joffrey. All right, Liz. So it's just a heart love shirt this year. I love it.
Oh, God, Jesus.
There it is.
I'll leave that alone.
So we're just gonna. Let's get with them and get a picture.
Woo! That'll make your eyes water.
Oh, that's funny.
And just for our principals and our bookkeepers, and really to our board specifically, Jackie and Terry, the first year I brought this item, we had 0 schools. Then we had 1, then we had 2, then we have 4, and then we have, was it 6 or 5? 5. So we're continuing to grow, and this is just a standard expectation, ensure that we effectively manage our money. And as Mr. Green was saying, it is hard, complex work in terms of what they're doing. A lot of these assistants have multiple responsibilities, specifically in the elementary schools. So it is doing a lot of work with a tremendous amount of responsibility. But it's just a reflection of the leadership of our principals and the hard work of our staff. So congratulations.
Congratulations, everybody.
For our next presentation, we would like to recognize our PBIS model schools, and I'd like to introduce Ms. Heather Holden, our Director of Student Services, to come up and tell you a little bit more about that recognition and recognize our schools.
Good evening. I'm going to invite Rebecca Fletcher. She is our district-wide student success coach, and one of her many hats is taking our schools through the process of the application for the PBIS model school. So there's lots of pieces that are involved in this, lots of hard work, a lot of it surrounding things like their student discipline audits to make sure that those are their risk ratios are low and that we're implementing lots of great positive behavior supports and interventions as opposed to those disciplines after the fact. So trying to do a lot of preventative behaviors and support positive environments on our classroom. And she spends a lot of time out there on the ground at every school supporting them. So this is for last school year. So these are the schools that earned model school distinction after their final year-end review of their data for last school year. And we're gonna start with Beachland Elementary School. They very excitedly earned platinum, so platinum level. Their principal is Rachel Finnegan, and their assistant principal is Jessica Keaton, and their PBIS coach is the amazing Melissa Abdo.
Good job, guys.
Our next school earning the bronze level is Citrus Elementary School. Principal is Tasha Jones, assistant principal is Chelsea Castillo, and their PBIS coach is Miss Rachel Nicholas. Earning silver this year is Fellsmere Elementary School. Yes. Principal Ramon Echeverria, assistant principal Natalie Corsanico, and their PBIS coach who is not okay with silver, she's going for platinum, is Miss Annie Arce. Our next level is bronze, and our first middle school is Gifford Middle School, led by Dr. Chadwick Bacon, Latanya Ross, and Alyssa Hartman. They have 2 PBIS coaches. Tonight we have James Russo with us, and they also have Marianne Thomas, and it is phenomenal. If you haven't been to Gifford and walked around and seen it in action, you need to do that. Put it on your list. Our next bronze award recipient is Osceola Magnet School. Principal Jennifer Norris, assistant principal Natalie Earn, and their coach is the amazing Miss Ebony Stewart. Getting crowded up here. Our next bronze level goes to Rosewood Magnet School. Principal Adam Faust, assistant principal Jennifer Lomascola, and their PBIS coach is Miss Christine Clark, who couldn't be with us this evening. Our next bronze goes to Sebastian Elementary School. Principal of the year last year, Ms. Letitia Hart, amazing, and assistant principal Ashley Kolstead, and their PBIS coach is Mr. Tony Adkins, who also could not be here this evening. Going to silver, we have Treasure Coast Elementary School. Principal Jeremy Keene, assistant principal Joanna Rue, and their PBIS coach is Miss Rachel Williams. And last but never least, at silver, we have Wabasso School, home of the Rising Phoenix, Principal Chris Kolstead, and their PBIS coach is Allison Craig. Congratulations to all of our PBIS model schools for their amazing work in the 23-24 school year. We can't wait to see what 25-20 brings us. All right.
You guys are gonna have to get in.
next presentation, we are going to recognize our 2024 Purple Star Schools of Distinction. And I would like to invite Danielle Hodge, our teacher on assignment in the Systems Improvement and Innovation Department, to come up and tell you a little bit more about this recognition.
Good evening, members of the school board, superintendent, and community members. We are honored to stand before you today in celebration of an incredible achievement awarded by the Florida Department of Education to 3 schools in the school district of Indian River County. Sebastian Elementary School, Sebastian River Middle School, and Sebastian River High School have each earned the prestigious Purple Star of Distinction Award. The Purple Star distinction recognizes schools that go above and beyond to ensure military-connected students experience a smooth transition, feel supported, and thrive academically and socially. Through initiatives such as dedicated staff liaisons, community events, and ongoing communication with military families, these schools have demonstrated a deep understanding of the sacrifices made by service members and their children. At the heart of this effort is the Purple Star kindergarten through 12th grade pathway, which seamlessly connects our elementary, middle, and high schools, ensuring that our military-connected students receive consistent, targeted support throughout their entire academic journey. From their very first day at Sebastian Elementary School to graduation at Sebastian River High School, this pathway provides a continuous thread of care that caters to the unique challenges of our military families. To the administrators, teachers, and staff of these schools, thank you for meeting the unique needs of every learner. Your work in these spaces have made a lasting impact on the lives of military families. We also want to thank the school board and superintendent for recognizing the importance of supporting our military families. Your commitment to providing these students with every opportunity to succeed is truly commendable and deeply appreciated. Congratulations to Sebastian Elementary, Sebastian River Middle, and Sebastian River High School on this outstanding honor. Accepting the recognition this evening from Sebastian Elementary School is Miss Leticia Whitfield Hart, principal, and Miss Jackie Ernie. From Sebastian River Middle School is Mr. Robert Riskin, principal. And from Sebastian River High School is Mr. Christopher Cummings, principal.
Go Sharks.
All right. I'm going to ask you to just put that banner behind you, if you would. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you. All right, ready? 1, 2, and 3. Congratulations.
Yes. No sounding. Thank you, guys.
For our next presentation, we will be introducing our 2025 Art in the Capitol winner. And for those of you who are not familiar with the Art in the Capitol initiative, our Storm Grove Middle School student, who I'm about to introduce, she had an artwork titled I-C-E-Y-E-S-E-A, and you'll see why in a minute. She was selected as the winner, and her art will be on display in the Capitol during the 2025 legislative session. And this artist is Michelle Lisenring, and she's here with us tonight. Michelle, would you come up? And Mr. Taylor. And we also have here with us tonight Miss Sharon Stewart, who is the legislative aide to Senator Grahl. Miss Stewart, thank you for being here. So if you can see, we have two fish with eyes and some very beautiful colors. And that is obviously just a print on here, but the photo or the painting, is it a painting or is it with colored pencils? Okay. Will be on display in the Capitol representing the school district of Indian River County.
Nice.
Okay, last but not least, we have our Casual for a Cause donation to give to Crossover Mission tonight. And for those of you who are not familiar with Casual for a Cause, we have a pre-selected, Kira's giving me a cue. Let's rewind a little bit. We have a video that Michelle's art teacher, who could not be here tonight because he has an athletic event that he has a commitment to, Mr. Caro recorded just for Michelle to tell her how proud he is of her.
Hi, how are you? My name is Will Caro, Mr. C, as most of my students know me. I want to start by saying big congratulations to Michelle Leisenring, who won the Art in the Capitol contest with her wonderful artwork, and it's called I See. She pulled inspiration from this realist artist, Salvador Dali. And when you see the artwork, you'll see the wonderful fish just flying out of the water, great vibrant colors. And it's just amazing for me as an art teacher to be able to have the privilege and honor of teaching Michelle, who is a natural-born artist. If I could, I'd like to show a couple of her sketches from her sketchbook. And as I'm showing you guys this, really look at the detail of all her wonderful work. This is her owl sketch. And Michelle is just one of our many students here at Storm Grove who are able to be a part of our wonderful art program. So come check us out. Go Stingrays. This is a wonderful ballerina. So just a few things that she's done. Last I want to show you here is called Still Life that she's done here. Okay. And as I said, it's great to have Michelle here. Michelle, I also had last year as a wonderful artist. So she's back to me again. I have a wonderful honor of teaching her another year. And she goes off to high school next year, Michelle. Good luck to you going forward. Keep it going. Keep sketching, keep drawing, keep tapping into flexing your creative muscles, all right? I look forward to seeing you in the future. And don't forget about us as you go on your future artistic journey. Again, congratulations, Michelle, and keep drawing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Shafty, for that reminder. And thank you, Mr. Caro. I know you're out there somewhere for recording that and taking the time to do that. So now for our final presentation is Casual for a Cause, and we have a pre-selected organization each month that our students, teachers, and staff members, in exchange for a donation, they are allowed to dress down on campus for that day. So it's a very popular day among students and teachers and staff members. So last month we raised money for Crossover Mission, and we have Beth Ratliff, who's the academic manager, and Almondo Cyrus, who's the assistant coach, here with us tonight. If you would like to come to the podium, please, so that we could present you with. $1,630. And Catherine is here in Beth's place. So would you like to say a few words?
Good afternoon. I'm Kathy DeShower, co-founder and executive director of Crossover Mission. We are greatly appreciative of this funding. We know what it means to be able to dress down for the students, and that they've done that for us, for the students of Crossover Mission who are in 6th grade and above, to come and do academics and train in basketball. We are internally grateful. Thank you so much.
Dr. Moore, that's all for presentations.
And congratulations to all our recipients. Madam Chair, that concludes presentations.
Okay, thank you, sir. This will conclude our awards and presentations for this evening. In about 5 minutes, we're going to have an invocation. You may either stay in the room if you choose, or you don't have to. It's not part of our business meeting, so that will take place in about 5 minutes. Thank you. School Board of Indian River County Board Business Meeting at the Joe N. Idelette Jr. TEC. Today is Monday, January 27th, 2025, and I would like to call this meeting to order. The time is 6:03. I ask out of respect, please everyone silence all electronic devices at this time. Also, if you have any material you would like to share with a board member, please give that to our executive assistant. Ms. Boycell is here today. All right. At this time, I'd like to have a stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by the Vero Beach High School Air Force Junior ROTC Detachment 043 under the direction of Major Retired Dean Ragsdale and Senior Master Sergeant Retired Sean Rude. Please stand.
Left, face. Present, color. Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order, color. Pose. Right, face. Forward, march.
And that is just one of the reasons why we have the most unique meeting in the county. We appreciate that very much. Thank you. Okay, at this time, I'm going to call for the adoption of the orders of the day. Board members, are there any items that you wish to move from consent to action or add to discussion?
Yes, I would like to add.
Okay,
I'd like to add the school it's SBAE conference,
sorry, spell that out again.
SB as in boy, AE. It stands for School Boards for Academic Excellence.
Okay,
I'd also like to add classical curriculum and name. A third item, executive orders.
anyone else? Okay, so I'm going to call for a motion to accept the adoption of the orders of the day as amended.
So move?
Okay,
Second.
Dr. Jones, Dr. Posca. All right, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? It passes 5-0. Thank you. Okay, at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. David K. Moore, our superintendent for the state of Florida. Dr. Moore.
All right, here we go again. All right, thank you, Madam Chair. We do have one, or let me start this way. Our report for the superintendent is going to be modified. As every single one of you that are here know, this month is Board Member Appreciation Month. That is why we're all here. I wanted to,
Sorry.
come on, go ahead. We wanted to start by celebrating our board members. The push that they provide to me in support of this community is unwavering. The level of thoroughness in which each of them engage in the conversation around this work, ensuring that we continue to excel academically, but we never forget who we are as individuals who live in Indian River County. They say being a board member is a part-time job, but I don't know if anyone up here would absolutely agree with that. You see them everywhere. They're in constant communication with me, reflecting on this work, and the system's success would not be where it currently is today without that of our board members. So we want to acknowledge them and celebrate them. We did have a little pre-game meal I don't know that we were pre-gaming, but we did have dinner prior to the meeting, in which every single one of them said we should do that every month. And then we do have, Ms. Maddox, a plaque for each board member that we would like to provide in just celebration and acknowledgement of this month and the work that you do every day throughout the year. So, who's first?
Dr. Peggy Jones.
Dr. Peggy Jones, give it up.
In no particular order. Yes, please. Mr. David Dyer. Dr. Posca. Miss Jacqueline Rosario. And last but certainly not least, Miss Terry Barenborg, our board chair. Ready? 1, 2, and 3. Thank you so much.
All right, we are ready to go. Good evening, school board members, school district team members, and community members. We appreciate you joining us tonight for a special recognition of Dr. David K. Moore. Also, we have 2 special guests tonight with us, Miss Jennifer Moore, Dr. Moore's wife, and Miss Maddie Moore. Thank you for being with us tonight. Also, thank you to those who joined us for our Superintendent of the Year reception. We want to thank our 3 schools that contributed to the delicious desserts that you enjoyed. Sebastian River High School with instructor Chef David Hodge is in the back. Can you wave at us back there? And we were so happy to have Treasure Coast Technical College join us with instructor Lindsay Cuniff. And Vero Beach High School with instructor Chef Henry Burson. Tonight was truly a team effort from both our schools as well as from our district team. In addition, I would like to thank Storm Grove School Leadership Team, where are you guys at? And their students. All of these stars of congratulation. Storm Grove took all those stars and ran with it to share different messages of congratulations for Dr. Moore. So in recognition of Dr. Moore, I have a very special guest that's going to introduce our proclamation tonight. Miss Maddie Moore-Hyme, would you please come up? And she's going to share some initial words prior to the board reading the proclamation.
Oh, goody.
Good evening. It is both an honor and a privilege to introduce this proclamation in recognition of my father, Dr. David K. Moore, and his remarkable contributions to education. While tonight's recognition focuses on his recent accolades, being named 2025 Florida Superintendent of the Year, a 2025 National Superintendent of the Year finalist, and the 2024 CFEF Star Superintendent. These honors are a reflection of nearly 30 years of unwavering dedication to public education. His tireless work and steadfast commitment has positively impacted countless students and families in the communities in which he has served. On behalf of our family, we accept this honor with deep gratitude,
fully aware of the personal sacrifices my father has made on behalf of students and for the betterment of our future communities. Thank you.
Very nicely done, Maddie, much better than I could have done that, and I'm sure much more special to your father. Now the board will join us in reading the proclamation.
Whereas the Indian River County School Board is proud to recognize Dr. David K. Moore for his exceptional leadership and achievements in education, culminating in his recognition as the 2025 Florida Superintendent of the Year, 2025 National Superintendent of the Year finalists, 24 Consortium of Florida Education Foundation's Star Superintendent, and whereas Dr. Moore's tenure as Superintendent of Schools in Indian River County has been marked by unprecedented academic progress, with the district state ranking improving by 29 positions from 38th place in 2018-19 school year to 9th place in the 23-24 academic year, the highest rate of improvement of any district in Florida during this period. And
whereas, under Dr. Moore's leadership, state assessment results showed the students in the district outperformed state averages in all tested areas, and the percentage of schools earning a school grade of A or a B soared from 47% in 2018 and 2019 to an extraordinary 95% in 2023 and 2024. And whereas Dr. Moore's efforts also contributed to the district's remarkable high school graduation rate, which reached 96% in the 2023-2024 school year, ranking 4th in the state of Florida. And
whereas Dr. Moore has shown outstanding financial stewardship, guiding the district from financial instability to fiscal health, including the creation of a healthy district fund balance, securing cost savings of approximately $4.5 million through restructuring efforts and negotiating a multi-year teacher contract that provided salary increases and additional resources for district support. And whereas through Dr. Moore's visionary leadership, the district has expanded school choice options, improving instructional quality, and establishing the Indian River Education Fund, the district's first direct support organization ensuring sustained community engagement and investment in the district's future. And
whereas Dr. Moore's commitment to continuous improvement is reflected in his development and implementation of the Achieve 2025 District Strategic Plan and the African American Achievement Plan, alongside his creation of robust systems of instructional and leadership support that foster data-driven decision-making across the district. And whereas Dr. Moore has received national recognition as a superintendent to watch by the National School Public Relations Association and has enhanced his leadership capabilities through prestigious professional programs, including the Yale University Fellowship for Educational Leaders and the Florida Chief Executive Officer's District Leadership Program. And
whereas Dr. Moore's leadership, dedication, and transformative impact on public education has earned him respect and admiration across the state of Florida, as well as in his own community, where his results stand as a powerful example of what can be achieved when a leader combines vision, strategy, and a steadfast commitment to educational excellence. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that Indian River County School Board extends the heartfelt congratulations to Dr. David K. Moore for being named the 2025 Florida Superintendent of the Year, 2025 National Superintendent of the Year finalist, and the CFEF Star Superintendent for his outstanding contributions to the academic and financial success of the district and the well-being of all students in Indian River County. Be it further proclaimed that the Indian River County School Board expresses its deep appreciation for Dr. Moore's leadership, unwavering dedication to excellence, and transformative impact on the district and its communities. Adopted this 27th day of January 2025. Normally, I would say speech, but we have to vote first. Okay. All right. All those in favor of adopting this proclamation, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, it passes 5-0. Dr. Moore, would you like to say anything?
Just a few words, and once again, thank you, board, for, two of you were here when I interviewed, for bringing me here and then supporting me over the course of the last 5 years. When I came in, it was one clear expectation, that we would transform the quality of our schools to improve the academic outcomes for our children within our community. And during that interview process, I clearly said every school in this district should be an A. And the only thing I was basing that decision on was the data, the information available, and my understanding at that time, which was relatively a limited understanding of the community, who the community was, and the quality of individuals who lived within the community. Over the last 5 years, we've never stepped away from that belief. And Maddie said it. Thank you. That was really good. Good job. Good job. You got me there. I'm just chasing impact. When I say impact, it really is trying to recreate the experience, which was one of the most moving experiences in my life. When I saw adults in an alternative school be unwavering in their commitment to do whatever needed to be done to have a positive impact on that child's life. And these were children who were overaged, undercredited, criminal records, heavy levels of involvement in drugs, had every reason to give up on themselves and, quite honestly, give up on the system that had failed them. But because of those adults, lives transformed. And at the end of the day, I said, that's a life worth pursuing. That's something worth chasing. When I made that commitment to myself, it really was just to be the principal of that school. And that happened. My journey was not what I intended it to be, but ultimately I did get to be the principal of that school. And then in just different conversations, I came to the realization through conversations with people who continue to mentor me today, what if we could have a school system that didn't need alternative schools? What if we were so skilled at meeting the needs of absolutely all children that we didn't need alternative schools? And I said, well, dang, that's worth pursuing too. And here I am. And this success for this system, it really isn't about me. It really, really isn't. Do I believe that all children can succeed? Absolutely. Am I willing to speak it and take the actions necessary or to do whatever needs to be done? Yeah, I am. But so are the people who are sitting at this table, so do the people in this room, so do the individuals in our community. So the system has reached a tipping point. The quality of individuals who are leading our schools. Some of you sat in on Datacom last Friday, which was also my wife's birthday, but a very, very long day of problem solving. And in my feedback with you today, the depth and the skill in which they're able to talk about where their students currently sit and the actions that they're going to take in order to ensure the most positive outcomes for children should give you the highest level of confidence for what's happening in our schools, because it gives me the highest level of confidence. So I can say thank you for this acknowledgement, but I definitely have to say thank you to our principals and our assistant principals for your daily grind, your daily drive, your daily commitment to ensure you bring this education and these outcomes to life. So thank you, principals. I have to thank Ms. Friedland and all teachers. One of the most innovative things that we have done is how we negotiate and how we solve problems. We have created a new way of negotiating where we clearly identify these are the barriers that the system has, these are the barriers the school system has, and let's just talk until we find solutions. And it has accelerated my understanding of the concerns and issues educators have, and it's drastically understand the complexities of running a school system. In watching board meetings, and I would challenge anyone to do this prior to my arrival, one of the things every soon-to-be superintendent goes and watches board meetings. And it was such a friction between the teachers and the district, and teachers and principals. It was something I had never seen before, almost would scare you away. But now, once again, our principals, our leads at schools, our department chairs, our union reps, we're engaged in conversations that are focused in on the children. So one of the key ingredients to our success really is listening and learning and responding to the needs of teachers. And cannot thank our teacher union enough. CWA, the same thing holds true. Joe, we are in a place where how many modifications did we make to that contract? 147. I don't know what it was. It was a significant number. And some people would say, oh my gosh, that's really, really bad. No, it's an improvement. It's a deepening of our understanding of how we're going to connect and engage in order to be in service of our children. Our district staff, the folks that work here, yesterday, Ms. Holmes, where is she at? Sent me a picture. I'm literally home watching football, and she sends me a picture of a full parking lot here, and says people are busy, hard at work. And I was like, well, I feel guilty. Maybe I should go to work. But it's just a reflection of the folks who are in this building. It's just absolutely outstanding. My cabinet, each and every single one of you can go and lead your own school system. You have the skills, you have the depth, you have the problem solving, you have an unwavering belief in the impact of what this work can be. I'm not asking you to do that, but you definitely could, and could not thank you for your unwavering commitment to me and the sacrifices you make regarding your own families for this work. And for me. So I cannot thank each and every single one of you enough. To Jen, who's kind of behind you, you are all things. You are my drive. You are the person who has probably sacrificed the most. She literally raised our kids from the times they were born until literally we moved here. And it was a key factor as to why we moved here. And she did everything in her power to connect and engage me to my children, which was a masterful skill. And my relationships with my kids is as strong as it is today because of her intentionality of making sure this guy loves his work, but he loves his kids too. And cannot thank her enough for being my partner in this work. And then sometimes just saying, well, he's not going to talk about it, which means don't make me relive today. But cannot thank her enough. And to our community, I think there's a number of things that set this application apart, one of which obviously was the academic outcomes. As you read through this proclamation, we are and have set ourselves apart in every other district in the state of Florida. As they're struggling through and regressing in academic outcomes, we're accelerating from 38th to 9th. That is not unique. It is an outlier. That sets us apart. And the fact when Dr. Jacobs reached out and, to a few people and says, hey, we're going to, consider Dr. Moore to be the state superintendent of the year, would you write a letter? And the letters from all of you just flowed in. I don't know how many of the other people in the state of Florida submitted. I don't know how many of the other 4 finalists submitted, but what was it, 23, 20? Oh, I'm not counting, 27, which came from the pastors of our churches, our county commissioners, our mayor, our sheriff, across the board. It just was reflective of this is more than one person receiving an acknowledgement. This is about a community taking ownership of the quality of education for its children. And I think that's the other thing that set us aside. So I will close so we can y'all can go home and we can get to the business of the board. But assure you, this work is not done. This work is not done. We have created an absolutely outstanding foundation to continue to drive and innovate and lead the way in the state of Florida as to what public education needs to look like. Because someone has to set the example. Someone has to ensure that we're creating public schools that all children can have access to, and we're meeting the needs of every single family in our community. And that's the work that lies ahead of us. Thank you. Okay. All right, thank you, thank you. Grab a treat on the way out. Oh, no. What?
So, don't leave yet.
Oh.
Dr. Moore, the team framed your proclamation for you to hang up in your office, and we hope every time you look at it, you understand how proud we are of you and how proud your community members and your board members and your family are of you. So we'd like to present you with your framed proclamation. Yes, and we would also like to present Jen and Maddie with some roses tonight for being his supporters, his #1 fans. And Jen and Maddie, if you would join.
Oh, this is great.
No, I have my other daughter.
So while they're all filing out, Dr. Moore, when you go to a wedding and the bride is walking down the aisle, sometimes I look at the groom because I want to see how he reacts to the bride walking down the aisle. So when your daughter was reading that, I was looking at you, and you were red. It was awesome. So it was wonderful that she was there. All right, at this time, we're going to have citizen input. These are the guidelines for citizen input according to the School Board Policy 0169.1. Each statement made by a member of the public shall be limited to 3 minutes in duration. I will be recognizing in the order in which the requests were received. The time shall start when the speaker is at the podium, and the public information officer will be the official timekeeper. As you see, the time clock is visible to the left on the dais, and you will hear a beep at the end of your 3 minutes. Each person may speak for up to 3 minutes at the beginning of the business meeting during citizen input as indicated on the order of the business, or for 3 minutes to each action item during the action agenda as indicated on the order of business. If a consent item is moved to an action item, when you come up to the podium, you may speak at that time to defer to speak during the presentation of the action item. People may only speak once about any given item. The time period may be extended by the presiding officer, and only the individual submitting a speaker's form is allowed to address the board. Time may not be yielded to other speakers. During the meeting, please refrain from clapping or outbursts of any sort so that we may proceed with dignity and decorum by not infringing on any individual's First Amendment rights. All statements shall be directed to the chair. No person may address or question board members or the superintendent individually, please. Board members may or may not address any citizen input statements at the end of the citizen input comments. As board members listen to citizens without interruption, citizens are asked to give board members the same respect. As per Florida Statute 1001.372, subsection 3, the presiding officer may order the removal from a public meeting held by the district school board of any person interfering with the expeditious or orderly process of such meeting. provided such officer has first issued a warning that continued interference with the orderly process of the meeting will result in removal. The first warning is to everyone at this time: no personal attacks, no inciting, or no disrespect, please. I will be calling you up two at a time. The first person will be called to the podium to speak, and the second person will be in line to speak. Speakers shall not engage in personal attacks or abusive language. The chair has the right to terminate any person's privilege to address the board if this rule is violated. If you have anything to give to board members or the superintendent, please do so at this time. Ms. Poisel is sitting over here. All right, we're going to call up our first two speakers. The first one is Marie O'Brien, and on deck is Reverend Sarah Sparks Martz.
So thank you, school board. Thank you to the top superintendent in the state of Florida, in the nation, and to our district and community. I'm Maria O'Brien. I'm with the Learning Alliance. At the Learning Alliance, I manage our community engagement program, which is called MCAN, or Moonshot Community Action Network. MCAN is our way of bringing the community together in service of our Moonshot Moment goal, which is a goal that our children, 90% of children, will be reading well on grade level by the end of third grade. We've got about over 150 community members that join us together, and we're all working together to become a literacy capital of the nation, because we know that even with a great school board and a leading superintendent, schools can't do it alone. So I just wanted to share with you, we've got so many things that are happening that I think it's worth sharing from our MCAN members. I just gave you a picture, and there are things happening here in the community that community members are welcome to see. You'll see one there is Sunrise Rotary. I think we have some Rotarians in the room. Sunrise Rotary just installed a new free little library at Pocahontas Park. We know to be able to read while children need materials to read. On MLK are Moonshot Reading Captains and our Roboso Church of God, which is a Moonshot church, and the Learning Alliance's Moonshot families all got together, and we marched in the parade and had a booth set up afterwards and met with so many families and talked to them about the importance of reading. And this is all in January, and the last thing just happened on Friday. United Way set up a Born Learning Trail at JC Beach Park. So I gave you some pictures. I think a picture is worth more than me saying it, but I just want to thank you for all you do for our students in working to improve literacy. I wanted you to know, and we want you to know on behalf of MCAN and the Learning Alliance, that the community, we're fully on board. We also have that unwavering commitment together that we want to ensure all of our children have the skills to thrive, and that we're going to continue to hold the goal, and we're honored to be in this Moonshot community as partners with you. So thank you.
Thank you. Next to speak is Reverend Sarah Sparks Martz, and on deck is Jennifer Pippin.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I retired in 2019 after 15 years of teaching in Indian River County. Concurrently, I was on the clergy staff at Community Church working with children and family and youth. I hold many memories of working in this community very close to my heart. I was a teacher of exceptional students. Many were also very poor. I especially hold those kids in my heart, and of course my amazing colleagues, the teachers. I moved away from the area for 3 years and just got back a year ago and began to reintegrate myself into this community. I am curious about the ones I left behind. How are they faring? They were not doing well when I retired, honestly. When I left, teacher morale was very low. Many were leaving teaching because they felt they had no support. Many of my children had so many social, psychological, educational needs that were not being met. I get it. White flight is real and very problematic for our school districts. 400 students unenrolled last year, millions of dollars. So a new magnet school might do the trick or help. It'll cost a lot of money. My son and his wife took my grandson out of public school in first grade. It was fully her intention he would go to public school, but after the second teacher quit the first week of school, the principal recommended homeschooling. Yes, they receive $8,000 a year. Maybe another magnet will help, but at what price? And I doubt she'd put him back in public school. I did a side-by-side comparison in the district. The magnet schools comprise roughly 40% of the minority students, while non-magnets are 50% minority, with Dodgertown at 83%. Also, the magnet schools are roughly 45% economically disadvantaged, while the non-magnet schools are 75 to 80% economically disadvantaged. So, question, are we allowing the magnets to become the stronghold of white flight students? How does this affect success for our poor minority kids? Research suggests that they aren't going to fare very well. I'm also a volunteer at the Environmental Learning School, and I work with public school groups. As I looked at a group of 17 students one day, I was astounded to note that 14 of the kids would be impossible to identify their race by what they looked like. They were varying shades of brown. Some had curly hair, some had straight. They were a mix of black, white, Hispanic, Pacific Islander.
Oh, boy.
How do we identify them? Do the parents just check a box? I don't know. And I asked the teacher, who was brand new, just out of college, if she felt she was getting support from the school district, and she said, not really. I think everyone's just really too busy. So my question, how are we helping our poor kids, and how do we support and care for our teachers? And test scores do not tell the whole story. Thank you so much. Good to be back.
Okay, Jennifer Pippin is next, and Sandra Rivera is on deck.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Pippin, and I'm the proud chairman of Moms for Liberty here in Indian River County. I want to say congratulations to Tiffany Justice. After serving with distinction on this board from 2016 to 2020, she's now secured a high-level position in Washington, D.C., where she will continue her critical work with the Trump administration. We are incredibly proud of Tiffany and her relentless commitment to education advocacy. Her journey from here in Vero Beach to a national platform is a testament to her dedication and vision for improving education across the country. We know she will make an even bigger impact, and we couldn't be more excited for her to take this step. The future of education is brighter because of people like Tiffany. We are thrilled to see that our county is now represented by a majority of common sense conservatives who are committed to restoring the values that make this country great. From the Trump administration down to our local offices, yes, even including mosquito control, we are proud to have leaders who prioritize practical, conservative solutions. With a strong foundation under President Trump, we are likely, sorry, that was my son calling, we are likely to have Vance in the coming years, and we are headed in the right direction. The principles of common sense, responsibility, and integrity will guide us, and we believe that history will show we were on the right side all along. The future is bright, and we're excited to be part of it here with Moms for Liberty and the majority of Americans. Last month, I sent an email to you all regarding a situation at one of our middle schools where a parent was informed they could not opt their child out of a certain lesson. I want to take a moment to remind this board, as well as everyone in the audience and those listening on YouTube to this meeting, that the issue has been fully addressed and rectified. Under Florida parental rights laws, parents and guardians have the right to opt their child or children out of any lesson, activity, or material they deem inappropriate under any circumstances. This right is clear and fundamental, and we stand firm in supporting it for benefiting all children and families in our district. Finally, I want to ensure that the school district is in full compliance with the recent First Amendment lawsuit won by our Brevard Moms for Liberty chapter. As citizens, we have the constitutional right to free speech during school board meetings. The guidelines read before citizen input today are not in compliance with this fundamental right or lawsuit won in Brevard. We have the freedom to speak on any topic as long as our speech is not threatening, and we are not required to address just the chair as confirmed by the ruling in the lawsuit. Additionally, this was made clear at the Florida Association of School Boards event earlier this year. I'm struggling to understand where the disconnect lies, and I strongly recommend that the board seek legal counsel to make sure that you are in compliance. Thank you and have a good night.
Okay, Sandra Rivera is our last speaker. She's not here. Okay, thank you. All right. At this time, I'm going to ask for a call for a motion to approve the consent agenda items. Board members?
Make a motion.
Okay.
Second.
Ms. Rosario and Dr. Jones. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed to the consent agenda? All right, passes 5-0. Okay, no items were pulled from consent to action, and so we're moving on to our action agenda. We are on A, approval of the K-8 expansion of Fellsmere, Osceola Magnet, Rosewood Magnet, and Pelican Island Elementary Schools. Approval of the proposed transition of Fellsmere Elementary, Osceola Magnet Elementary, Rosewood Magnet Elementary School, and Pelican Island Elementary School to a K-8 learning space offers a supportive progression and personalized approach to education from elementary through middle school. Formal adoption of this item by the board would authorize the superintendent to engage in the necessary steps to explore and successfully transition the 4 above-mentioned schools to K-8s by adding 1 grade level each year, beginning with grade 6 in the year 2025-2026 academic year. All right. We have a speaker on this item, Mrs. Pippin.
So our organization, we do promote this. We do think that this is going to be a great thing for the 4 schools. We fully support the board. And we also wanted to throw out the idea, this was brought by one of our members. So with Vero Beach High School, they have the FLIC, the Freshman Learning Center, for people who don't know that just have 9th grade. They recommended maybe doing something like that in Sebastian as well, because if you're going to have K-8 in Vero, they can go to the Freshman Learning Center and then they go to Vero Beach High School. So maybe having something similar like that as an option in Sebastian, so this way if children are attending K-8 schools, they could attend something like the FLIC in Sebastian and then go on to Sebastian River High School. So that was our recommendation, but we definitely support this. We think it's going to be great with the decline in enrollment. Anything that we can do through innovation, I know that's kind of the word of the year, innovation, to bring more students and families back to the public school system will be a positive for our district. So thank you.
Just, Madam Chair? real
Yes.
quick. It's funny, as the script was being read, the attorney we looked at each other at the exact same time, so there was a modification to that script that you just highlighted, and there will be a policy change based on the Brevard ruling coming forward to the board, based on that ruling that was just delivered. So just
Thank you. That was fast.
save me an email, all right? So, Madam Chair, just to present the item a little bit further, beyond what you just said, this is an item that we have spoken about for a great deal. There are board members who have spoken to me about pursuing K-8 since the time that I've been here. And we find ourselves in a situation where now is a time to respond to choice. And our 5th to 6th grade data is not strong. It's, what was it, Ms. Rosario? Dwindling?
Dwindling.
Dwindling. Just in 5th to 6th is the only thing I consented to. And that's a data point that I have shared with the board on multiple occasions. We lose students from 5th to 6th, and we lose students from 8th to 9th. I challenged our principals in early January, 2 of which responded to that challenge, in giving them that information and saying, if there is a way for us to engage in conversations to make this move sooner rather than later, I think that's what we're obligated to do. And we want to provide the choice. We want families to have a conversation with their children about what environment is the best space to educate their children in grades 6 through 8. Typically, we don't provide that choice to our families. This would afford the opportunity for families to begin to engage in that conversation on a very small scale, But I believe that we are obligated as a system to maximize choice. And the public school system that just sits back and says, well, we have 3 different configurations and take it or leave it, the research is clear. They are leaving it. They are leaving it. So we, in the height of all of our success, we have gone from 38th to 9th. We've gotten 2 district A's in a row. 95% of our schools are an A or a B. Those are all true statements, but still, we just can't stop. So this item is requesting the board to approve this transition. We have already asked our principals in these 4 particular schools to meet with the 5th grade parents in order to determine interest. Between 2/3 and 3/4 of the current 5th graders, parents said, yes, this is something I'm absolutely would like to do. This would be a smaller, more intimate environment for a 6th grade student, more similar to a K-5 experience versus a middle school, move 7 classes and have 7 different groups of children in each of those particular classes. Both experiences will be rigorous in nature. And principals have heard me clear, we need to ensure that we are being rigorous in our academics, which means we need to continue to push rigorous academic courses into our 6 through 8 space. So these will be extremely rigorous programs as well, 6 through 8. In terms of athletics, athletics would be afforded to someone who makes the choice to stay in a K-8. They'd have the opportunity to participate in those at their neighborhood middle school. This also presents opportunities for us to engage in problem solving on the experience. Yes, you're going to have in a K-8 a more of an elementary-like. You're going to have reading, language, arts, your history course, your math, your science, your enrichment courses, very similar to what you would have in elementary school. But we can problem solve and identify ways to ensure that we're still providing the most enriching experience possible. This is to rethink what public education is doing. This is to enhance enrollment through enhancing choice and opportunities. At the same time, we believe it's going to strengthen the middle school experience. Why do I know that it's going to improve the middle school experience? Because it is extremely overwhelming to have a school of middle school children that's in the 600, 700, or 800s. So by design, it's going to make that experience a little bit smaller. It's going to ease the flexibility that middle school principals have to heighten the teaming approach. So it on both fronts enhances the environment. The biggest concern with 6A is space and size and the intimidation of it, while at the same time allowing a family to say, what's best for us? What's best for us? Do we want a small, intimate environment? Our son's not ready for a middle school experience. That could be the case. Or our son is absolutely ready for a middle school experience. My oldest daughter, who just walked out of this room, she would have been the K-8 child. My youngest daughter, who's, at work in Tallahassee, I would have put her in middle school in 4th grade, just because those environments would be perfect for them. So this allows us to take the first initial step. It also requires us to come back to this board with a comprehensive plan in October, which allows us to look at the impact of middle schools and solidify what those plans would be. I do believe, from my perspective, if there is demand, we're required to meet that demand and at least provide that level of choice. We should not be turning families away to schools that may not have certified teachers, may not be the best experience for that family. I don't believe those things currently exist in Indian River County. I don't think that's a reality today. I don't think it's going to be a reality next year. But in 5 or 6 years, if we can't be flexible enough in listening to what our community wants and providing it, then people from the outside of this community may be saying, hey, let's get into Indian River County. So that is what this item is. I'm going to ask Dr. Shafty to clarify or say anything I didn't say. Okay, all right, thank you. All right. Madam Chair, Back to you.
Okay, thank you. All right, board members, any discussion?
Yes.
Dr. Jones?
Thank you, Dr. Moore. You're right, we've been talking about K-8 for a while. I attended the Rosewood meeting with parents last week, very well attended. Mr. Faustin and the assistant principal did a great job, and the parents had great questions. Right now, he's looking at maybe 2 sections already of parents who are interested. And you're right, if we don't transform the schools, we'll lose people, and I think we do a great job with our students. One thing I've talked to you about, and board members have received emails, is, what happens to our programs in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And we're really going to have to look at it. Obviously, they can go to their home school for athletics, and I used to do that at the state level. And, band, chorus, and so forth could be a concern. So whatever we do, however we go with this, we've got to make sure that we can have some options. If our middle schools become smaller, maybe there's some transferring of the teachers going from one school to another for band and so forth. Because if you look at some of the things about Indian River County, and I've been here 45 years, we're known for good schools. Right now, I think we're known for pretty great schools. We're known for great band programs. We're known for great athletics. And anyone who knows anything about students, if they find that niche, it even makes their school experience a little bit better. So I'm sure you'll be meeting with people regarding band and so forth. It's, most of our music educators in the elementary are more chorus. Some have a little bit of fine tuning in band, but, hopefully we can continue to look at that. And talking about middle schools, you're absolutely right. When I opened Gifford Middle, we were about 800. We went to about 1,000. This is before Storm Grove opened. And the true middle school experience will help even if our middle school numbers go lower. We had true teaming. We had students had the same English, math, science, and social studies teachers, and they would go out to electives, and they felt like a smaller group within a larger school. So even if our middle schools, I was looking at the count the other day, even if they go down by 100 or so, we really, really need to get back to that because it was successful for Gifford Middle, and we were the only middle school who did both the personal and team planning, and they met every day with their students and their teachers. It was just very cohesive, and Gifford Middle was an A for many, many years. So when we look at this transition for K-8, and it is fluid right now, there are a lot of questions. Just keep in mind for those who do stay at 6th, 7th, 8th, you're right, they're giving up some of the things of a larger middle school, I understand that. But let's try to fine tune it so we can keep a few things for them.
And Madam Chair, not you, Madam Vice Chair?
Yes.
Absolute full commitment. One of our initial next steps after board approval is to engage with our principals, our district staff, in the creation of how it's going to look at each particular school.
Okay.
And this is to, in some ways, take the guardrails off and stop thinking what is traditional and start thinking what is innovative in creating the needs. So from a parent's perspective, this is, if I was tuning into this 6th grade experience next year, what a fun year it's going to be, because I'm going to get to sit with those 2 principals that are sitting back there and district staff and dream up what it's going to be for the next 15, 20 years. So we do have some hoops to get through or some challenges to overcome. But it's abundantly clear that when I talk about outpacing, outperforming, and preserving, the preserving is the Indian River way of life.
Correct.
And I've given that presentation countless times. And within that presentation, I'm saying is the commitment that this board has made to extracurriculars is absolutely more significant than anywhere else I have ever been. That means clubs, activities, the arts. I tell the story all the time. The first time Ms. Maddox took me to Prism, I leaned over to her and said, there's more tubas in here than there are all in all of Miami-Dade County Public Schools. Because, and I don't even think I'm exaggerating.
No, you're
not. But we have to connect to kids at a younger age.
Yeah.
And I think this initiative would allow us to do that. In speaking to some of our band directors, specifically in the older grades, the more solid they are in middle school,
Yes.
the easier it is to transition them. But what if we can even connect to them a little bit earlier?
And I just want to say one thing. I see Mr. Faust out there. The best questions and comments came from his students that were looking at going into 6th grade on, okay, now what about safety patrol? And Mr. Faust would come back, or now the announcements done by the kids. It was just so exciting. So you're right. We've got to come out of the box on this one. Thank you.
Any other board members?
Yeah.
Dr. Pasca.
So I think it's important to remind ourselves that the premise of this conversation is that, and you correctly pointed this out, Dr. Moore, is that in spite of significant improvements in the last 2 years, whether it be financial, educational outcomes, ratings, all these things, we still have this continuous bleeding of students or loss of students. And I don't know the exact numbers in the last year. I don't know if you have those handy, the last couple of years, but I think in the since I've been here, I think we've already lost, as much as maybe 1,000 students or so, approximately, depending on how you count it. So, if we continue the rate of loss, there's going to be a lot less teachers employed. There's going to be a smaller district. And seeing where this is going, clearly we need to do something to attract people back into the public school system that are leaving. It's interesting that there's some counties in the state of Florida where they're seeing rapid growths in their student population, and many where they're seeing continued retraction. But we have had continual decline in student enrollment pretty consistently. And I hope we're doing exit interviews or at least a survey of these families to understand and try to drill down into what we can do better from a customer service perspective. Was it the classroom environment? Was it teachers? Was it, was it safety? Like or did you just want to change? Did you just want to homeschool? Was it curriculum? What are some of the factors that made you want to potentially leave the school district? Obviously, there's a lot of factors, and it's going to be, in many cases, personal to that family. But there's probably some common pathways that we could look at and potentially improving based on that data harvesting and maybe whatever data we are collecting, see how we can potentially collect more from these people leaving so that we can try to reverse that. But the premise of what we're talking about of expanding the K-8s, I think this is a great conversation, and I hope it helps to reverse the loss of students. Obviously, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to generate an educational product that they ultimately want to buy. So that we need their buy-in, we need their interest. I think we have it, and I think there's a way to do it that is very successful and is going to be an improvement. That being said, even with this, it's probably not going to stem the blood loss. We have to continue looking at how we can innovate and slow the loss of students from the district, or in 5 or 10 years, it's going to be a very different district potentially.
So I'll have Mr. Green, off the top of his head, which is better than my head, give the numbers. But the problem that we're trying to solve for is the students that we're never getting. We do lose students, as every system, through the overall experience, typically 5th to 6th, and then 8th to 9th. But when you look at our kindergarten class is down this year 120, which maybe that's just a fluke this year. We have to study the data, but if that trend continues over the course of 12 grades in kindergarten, that is the reality in which you're talking about, which is part of the reason to say, I don't think we should wait to conduct a regression study on the loss of kindergarten numbers, because that would be too late. But in terms of our enrollment, it's about, I would say, 300 students down. Why don't you just say it, Green? So 375, which was, which is significant, anticipated, but still significant.
Right.
Okay, Ms. Rosario?
So I have mixed feelings about this. I certainly am excited to support this item, but I do have concerns concerns that I hadn't thought about. I mean, this is an item that I have been championing for years, as you mentioned, Dr. Moore, earlier. And one of the schools that I have thought this would be perfect for, obviously, is Fellsmere Elementary School. Only, because of their attractor program, the bilingual dual program is just, a lot of parents want to continue, have their students continue learning a second language into their middle school years, so it just seems to make sense there. But there are some pretty serious concerns that I think we all need to really pay attention to, that I had not thought of until we received the emails from some of the, from I believe they're the bands and the orchestra teachers who have a right to petition their government with concerns. So some of these here, I just want to mention, because if we don't mention it, I don't want it to go fall under the wayside. In planning and preparing for the future, I think it's really, really incumbent upon all of us to pay attention to all of these bullet points because they are concerns. Every decision that we make, there are certainly unintended consequences. And though we need to keep and retain students, especially those moving from 5th grade to 6th grade, at the detriment of hundreds of others who might, have diminishing performing arts programs in other schools, is something that we need to talk about for sure. So we have a concern here that taking students from Rosewood and Osceola out of middle school band, chorus, and orchestra will drastically decrease the programs at Gifford and Oslo middle schools, which will quickly decrease the size of the Vero Beach High School band, chorus, and orchestra. Now, that second part, I believe, might be a concern as the students get higher into their grade levels, but we have outstanding bands and orchestra at our high schools, and I certainly don't want those to be diminishing programs. The middle school programs will be diminished to the point where there will need to be a teacher splitting the band, chorus, and orchestra at each middle school. This will adversely affect the quality of those programs, and it will be extremely difficult to find a qualified teacher who can teach all 3 areas. If we lose the middle school band program, there will eventually not be marching band at the Friday night football games. Students at the K-8s will not have the opportunity to start band, chorus, or orchestra, as there is no funding for instruments or teachers. If band, chorus, and orchestra is going to be offered at each of the K-8 schools, who will teach these classes? What facility will be used? There are no band rooms, etc., at the elementary schools. Where will the funding come from? What instruments will be used? If the only music option offered at these schools is general music, what will happen to the students who want to be in band, chorus, and orchestra? I mean, and there are so many other questions here, which are legitimate, and I think they deserve and they warrant an answer, Dr. Moore. Actually, I think every single one of these questions warrant an answer, at least for this board member, because we are responsible to our constituents, and even though we have an employee concern here, it is still someone who is our constituent and is concerned for the future of the performing arts program. That said, I do hope that we'll be able to address this issue at the growing 6th grade at these 4 schools going into 6th grade. I do hope that there would be maybe some partnership, and of course I'm just thinking out loud, maybe the Gifford Youth Orchestra might be able to come in and partner with some of these schools. I don't know about transportation to, from those schools to some of these other schools for maybe after school practices, some way or another, get those middle school, those 6th grade students into participating with the other schools, at least until they get up and running. I'm not sure what that would look like, but whatever that is, it is certainly something to look for. On the other hand, we do have this opportunity where a parent will make that choice, right? The parents make the choice to say, I want to put my child in this particular school with a 6th grade that remains at Fellsmere Elementary, and I'm good with that. I'm okay that my student doesn't take band or orchestra in their 6th grade. That's great. That's a parent's choice. That's a parent's option to do that. However, the other side of that is, in the middle schools, when students are in our middle schools, it's my understanding they're scheduled, they have a scheduled class of band and orchestra in their 6th grade, in 6th grade, correct?
If they have that,
If they have that,
if that course, it may not be just with 6th graders, it may be in beginning band, which would be multiple grades.
okay. But either way, they would be scheduled for that as a course, like they would a reading class or a math class. The exposure to those instruments might actually influence a student, in a positive way. And this kid's gonna be like, yeah, I really love this. And that's a student that will continue with that instrument throughout. So there are pros and cons on all sides. I get that. This is a big deal for us. We're moving into some decisions that are gonna be some really big shakers for our district, things that, thinking out of the box and, opening up a classical school is something, out of the box that it's not the tradition here in Indian River, and this is just gonna be one of those other moves that we take. So I want us to get it right. I want us to be able to make sure that we have dotted every I and crossed every T, and really provided a true middle school experience for those 6th graders without hurting the rest of the district in some way, shape, or form. So I'd like to see a good, healthy balance with that. If you can come back to us with, before October, actually, if you can come back to us pretty soon and give us a template, something, that we'd be able to quell the concerns of some of the people who come to us so that we can say, look, this is what it might look like. This is the expectation. And then we, as board members, will be able to support this move going forward.
Very fair.
Fair.
Hey, Mr. Dyer, would you like to say anything?
Yeah, just like to say, choice is a beautiful thing, and I think this is great for us to innovate and for us to offer the choice to parents in our school district. I love the creative arts and music, and am very much for having very strong programs, but I also remember in my school days being in the music class where the teacher said, just act like you're playing when we perform, please. It wasn't my thing, and to be forced into a class wasn't going to make me play any better. So I think that the beautiful thing is choice. The one thing that we do know about K through 8, which I strongly believe in, is the academic performance is better. If you look at us and you look at the end, and I'm going back a year in statistics, so if they're off a few percent, I'm within the general range. We had 63% of our kids leaving 5th grade that were proficient at grade level in courses. When they reached middle school, 1 year later, at the end of 6th, they were only 43% proficient. There's a thing called the middle school slide. And yes, they recovered, but when they got to the end of high school, they were only 50% at grade level in terms of proficiency. So there's something going on there, and I think this middle school K through 8 is really a big deal, a big idea. I think it offers choice that is really needed in this school district. And the nice thing about it is we have the superintendent and the team that can lead the innovation and lead the choice that we have in the district. So I think it's a beautiful thing, and I certainly support our innovation and our giving choice to the kids and to the parents.
Thank you. Dr. Moore, when you came, I've written this down before you said it. and you almost said exactly what I wrote, which is, when you came here, I remember standing next to you and you said you were floored by the arts programs that we had here. And not just, let's not just talk about music, let's talk about art. Let's talk about all those programs where creativity is flourishing. And kids find a reason, an outlet for wanting to study and wanting to be academically flourishing. So we're looking at those numbers and we're seeing that in the middle school slide, right? And I've taught middle school and I've taught it at K-8, both. I see advantages to both, I see disadvantages to both. The K-8 that I was at had all those programs, band, chorus, art, everything, but it was a big K-8, and so it could support that with the FTE. What parents were concerned about was how the kids would behave on the bus, the 8th graders with the kindergartners. They were like big brothers and sisters taking care of them. It wasn't a problem at all. The kids were separated on the campus enough that they had their middle school experience and they weren't treated like the babies, which I know that that's probably a concern too. I sat with the Osceola principal recently, and we talked a little bit about concerns that the kids had, concerns that the parents had, questions that they had. You know, I think it's gonna give great choice for a parent that sees that their child needs this. A child that goes into middle school and can thrive in the middle school experience doesn't need that. And a parent should know what their child needs and what they want to provide for their child. And if we can offer both, that's awesome. So I do have concerns, though, again, about music, the arts, and the arts, not just music. But I also think that, you know, talking to, you know, our principals, they're creative. They're coming up with ideas of how to share possible staff to help provide that for our kids. And partnering with K-8s and middle school arts programs, I think, is a really innovative thing, and we need to look at that as well, which I know you love innovation and you know, think outside the box all the time. So I look forward to that sort of innovative sharing that we're going to do with our schools. We're all in it together. It's not middle school versus K-8. It is all of us educating our kids and being the best we can for our kids. You know, I'm so old that when I was in middle school and I got to go to the band class and I was asked, my dad was a drummer. I wanted to play the drums and I was told I couldn't because I was a girl. Yeah. So we have come a long way. I've seen girls on the drum line, thank goodness. And I did learn how to play later, so I was excited about that. But I will say that, you know, kids don't know what they don't know. And they want to be exposed to those things. And exposing them to those sort of things when you find out that you can't play an instrument or you thought you wanted to play a different instrument than you did. And my son brought home a tuba the first time he came. That was painful. He wanted to play the drums. And he was told we have too many drummers. So, you know, those things happen, I get it. But I think exposing kids to all kinds of things and all different varieties is what we should be doing. We should be offering choice. I do understand the concerns that people have for our arts programs, and I know how important it is for our community to have really strong arts programs. It's very evident when you go to things in our community. I invite you to go to PRISM and things like that because it's outstanding. And he's right about the number of tubas. So, you know, I'm all for supporting this. This is something I've asked you for since I think we talked the first time you came in, is thinking outside the box, thinking about K-8s, thinking about innovative programs that we don't offer. So I look forward to things like boutique high schools. I look forward to technical stuff. I think, you know, every child can find what excites them when they're offered those things. But if they're not offered that chance or that variety, shame on us. So I totally support this. All right, so I'm going to call for a motion for the approval of a K-8 expansion of Fellsmere, Osceola Magnet, Rosewood Magnet, and Pelican Island Elementary Schools.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Dyer, Dr. Jones with a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? It passes 5-0. Okay, we are on to action item agenda B, public hearing for science instructional materials adoption, school year 2025-2026. A list of recommended instructional materials for science has been available for public review for at least 20 calendar days. The materials listed are subject to public comment during this public hearing. The Instructional Materials Adoption Committee has reviewed the attached adoption materials for consideration beginning with the 2025-2026 school years. These materials will assist teachers in providing standards-based instruction for school district of Indian River County students. This list of science instructional materials has been brought before the school board during the January 13th, 2025 school board workshop. The list will be brought before the school board for approval on February 24th, 2025. This item deals with the adoption of science instructional materials for the year 2025-2026. Dr. Moore, have you documented that this public hearing was properly advertised in accordance with state statutes?
Through the chair, yes.
We now recess this meeting to conduct the public hearing as advertised. The public hearing is now in session. Dr. Moore, are there any written responses to the advertised public hearing to be read at this time?
Not at this time.
Okay, the public is invited to address only this issue at this time. There is an individual that requested to speak. After that, anyone that wishes to speak on the subject may. Ms. Pippin, would you like to come up and speak?
Thank you. So I was proud to serve on this committee. I read all of the biology and the anatomy and physiology books. They were about 600 pages each, 4 books for each subject, so it took a couple months to get through. The district staff did a great job with this committee. From start to finish, they were very informative. They were very helpful. This was my first time sitting on a curriculum committee, so I want to say kudos to them for everything that they did and how they were able to help everybody through this. You did receive an email from me once we were out of sunshine. I don't want to break the sunshine, about some concerns that were in the biology textbooks. We do move as Moms for Liberty to approve as they were, put in there for you guys in that order. Again, these were approved by the Department of Education, has nothing to do with the school district of Indian River County and their approval process. But I did send an email to you guys. I sent it to all of the publishers. So you received 3 emails from me. I sent it to all the publishers, the Department of Education, the board, curriculum instruction staff here. We did receive a call from the Department of Education. We did a Zoom call with them. Jackie may want to go more into that, but they are looking into this issue. So they're looking at restructuring who is approving curriculum for the Department of Education on a state level, and they're also looking at these curriculums that were approved by the Department of Education. So as a school level, I'm not sure, we know how fast government works sometimes, we may have to approve a supplemental something to put with, these approved biology books through the school district because there is a lot of misinformation and disinformation in there. I sent all of that via email to you. If anybody wants to look, they can do a public records request and see that it is public facing. But we need to teach our children the truth. My son's a sophomore. My daughter graduated from the school district, in May. And, if we need to have either the correct information or both sides. This propaganda that was in here was very one-sided. So if they want to keep it, the publishers don't want to change it, the Department of Education doesn't want to change it, I do recommend at the school district level, through your leadership, to have an opposing viewpoint. We provided all of that documentation. We had many, many people working on the documentation that was sent to you. It did come through me, but we had a lot of people working on that. So my recommendation and our recommendation through Moms for Liberty is to approve it. Again, the district did a lovely job, but just having those opposing viewpoints, so this way we're not indoctrinating children, we're educating them. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak on this subject? All right, I'm going to announce that the public hearing for adoption for science instructional materials school year 2025-2026 has been conducted pursuant to notice, and the ample opportunity to address this issue has been provided to all. The board meeting is reconvened at this time. I'm going to call for a motion to approve the adoption of science instructional materials school year 2025-2026.
Could I comment first?
Yeah, we do the motion
Okay.
and the second and then the discussion.
Yeah.
Because
I'll make
this
a
is a
motion.
public hearing item. Okay?
Second.
Ms. Rosario, Dr. Jones, Now I'm going to call for the discussion. Dr. Posca.
In reviewing these books, and as was stated previously in other meetings and this meeting, these are the major publishers that are Florida DOE approved. They're primarily used across the country. You know, the problems that I see in a lot of these books, there's so much dogma, almost written to a point where there's like a religious dogma in the book of all these other things that are completely unrelated really to the lesson. So for instance, they'll say climate change is the greatest threat to humanity. The best treatment for a virus is a vaccine. There's all these kind of dogmatic statements that are not only likely scientifically incorrect, but it's just a complete waste of our children's time to be focusing on this. Teach them how to make a vaccine, teach them how viruses infect people, teach them about geology, and you know, don't spend time on the dogma. But when I look through these books, there's so much of this riddled into it. It actually creates functional problems in reading the book. So as you're reading the book, there's all these things kind of salted and peppered into the text. So the text doesn't actually flow and allow you to learn the important subject matter and material a lot of the times. It interferes with the primary content that we're trying to teach these kids. So I'll just be blunt in that I would never use these books to teach my kids. That's just how I feel about it, and I don't use these books to teach my kids. And maybe this is another reason why families are walking away from public school, because we have such a limited curriculum, which is poorly written and riddled with unnecessary text, which makes it difficult for a child to read and understand the actual subject material that he needs to know. But for me personally, you know, I couldn't use these books to teach my kids. They just don't read well, and there's too much unnecessary information. So those are my concerns about it.
Okay, any other board members? Mr. Dyer.
Like I say, I believe we discussed at the workshop adding supplemental materials to address some of the concerns. So I think that that's certainly appropriate, and I believe that we can do that legally within Florida. Is that correct?
Through the chair, Ms. Becerra can expand, but yes.
Please. Yeah.
Good evening. Through the chair, yes, it is. We do have the right to add to our curriculum where we need to, and we do a couple of different things when we adopt a curriculum. Our specialists and our teachers get together and they create curriculum apps and pacing guides, and they do that based on the time they have within the school year to do this work. Most sets of curriculum come with more than enough to teach that we can go through and choose the pieces that match the standards and are aligned with the standards more accurately or most accurately. But in addition to that, we also meet every week. We have a very robust collaborative planning model where our specialists meet with teachers every week to collaboratively plan, not just the week ahead, but typically a month ahead. So there are added layers of these safety nets to ensure that what we're teaching is based on the facts.
Yeah, I guess I'd just like to say that, you know, I remember years ago getting the Encyclopedia Britannica and having that, and you got it, and as soon as you got it, it was basically worthless because science would change. Correct. And I think that that's what we find ourselves in as we get new facts. In science, you're always getting new facts and new discoveries, and I think that we need to keep our curriculum current, and I understand both the issues with publishers and books, and you do need to get some corrections, so I'm glad that we can have supplemental materials, and I think that that's a good way. We have to teach the courses, and we have the Florida Department of Education approved books, and so with the supplemental material, I think it sounds like we're on the right track. And you did have a robust discussion, as I heard, in making sure that you got the right one of those that we could choose from.
Mr. Rosario?
Yeah. I heard great things about the committee and the leadership, your leadership over how the committee began from beginning to end. Just fantastic. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I do have a great team, though, that really deserves the accolade, so, but thank you.
Well, you go ahead and you let them know. They did a great job. So I'm not really too concerned with supplemental material. I have other issues with supplemental material because those materials aren't being vetted the way that the regular curriculum is. So my concern is, as you well know, it's not the standards, because I know we're going to teach the standards. It's not the curriculum map, and it's not the pacing guides. It's those woven sentences that are just kind of caught in the middle of this wonderful lesson that's, you know, addressing standard A, but then you have that one sentence or two that is wrong. That's what I worry about. It's those pieces that are within the content of the chapter or whatever the lesson is. That's just going to muddy the waters because it really is not showing both, as Jennifer mentioned, not showing both sides, as you know, or completely inaccurate. So that's my concern, and I know that you've given your assurance that those items, because we have the ability, because you have the ability under your leadership to direct teachers and coaches and principals and assistant principals, that there are, you know, whatever the content is, that we're not going to go there, then I'm okay with that. And certainly I'm not saying, you know, wipe out an entire chapter, because there haven't been any concerns on that level. It's just literally, it's those little pieces here and there, as you and I have talked about before. So that's my biggest worry. I do know, and you're right, you know, clearly you are right, you know, that we have the ability to purchase supplemental material. I just worry about the supplemental material more than I worry about the actual curriculum. I know that maybe a year or two ago, Dr. Moore, you might be able also, Ms. Becerra, to confirm, we changed some of our policies with supplemental material to make sure that principals and assistant principals, any supplemental material had to be approved by the administration. Yeah, okay, I wanted to make sure I got that right. So yeah, just that's my biggest concern.
Understood.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Dr. Jones?
Go ahead.
No, go right ahead, I was, thought you'd.
Good conversation. You know, we always come back to the standards and the curriculum maps and so forth, and just remember 7 years ago when I did this, it's a lot of work. Thank you so much, Ms. Becerra and your team. You know, when you look at the book, we don't cover everything, obviously. We've got our desired outcomes with our testing and our progress monitoring, but one of the things I think we always want to do is teach our children to think critically, and that's a component in every area. And then do your research, and do you have your resources? And I think the ones that you chose as far as the books for each of our students and grade levels. Being at the science fair this weekend, boy, did the kids talk very well about discovery. You know, all of their components, they use their research with discovery. So I think it's important, obviously, to make science come alive and have our kids think critically.
Well, you know, I want to talk about this because science is what I teach. Having been on the state science committee years ago, it's overwhelming because when you're on the state committee, they send you every single piece of every single book for every single grade level. We couldn't park our cars in our garage that year. And you have the books as the state committee, you have the books and all the materials for months. And you're supposed to be reading those cover to cover and going through them, looking for all kinds of things on the checklist. It's overwhelming. I'm going to tell you from that experience, what I took from that was there's way too much that the publishers put in a book that a teacher could never cover it all. And so I know when you go to look at it, because I was a curriculum specialist for St. Lucie County, is we take that book when we first get a new book and we say, what are the standards? What in this book teaches those standards, and the rest of it we don't teach. And I know that's what you're going to do. You're going to map that out and say, these are the things that we can teach these standards with, because there's too much, way too much. Teacher doesn't have that much time. Science is one of those subjects that it drives me nuts because politics constantly enters science. Drives me nuts. I always try to keep politics out of it, both sides. You know, science is this is the concrete standard and this is what we should teach. My opinion doesn't matter. It's what is the standard. And if we can stick to that's what we need to be doing, because that's what we need to do is teach standards. So I know I can trust your team to do that, and I look forward to that because I know that you've gone through this really big process. I'm surprised biology is the only one that got picked apart because, yes, biology has all kinds of fun stuff in it, more stuff than I thought would have been picked apart. But, you know, the other subjects as well. Astronomy, let me just take that one. You know, that's constantly changing every week. Every week, somebody throwing some rocket up in the, you know, space, and that's constantly changing. So how they can write a book about what's constantly changing in space, it drives me nuts because that's something I have to constantly look up myself when I teach astronomy. So I know these teachers have to supplement with things like that to stay current. It's that supplement that makes me concerned. To keep to the standard and not let politics be involved. It shouldn't be involved in any subject because that's not the teacher's job. The teacher's job is to stick to the standards. So I think, you know, I applaud the team for going through meticulously all of the different materials to make sure that, you know, they're covering the best they can. I know that the state adoption committee does their job, but, you know, we can only pick what they choose. And we can't pick. You know, we could go off on a tangent and do our own thing, but that would be a lot more work and a lot of money spent to do what? Look all that stuff up in your garage and go through it for a year. So I applaud all the time that and effort your team put into this, and you know, I totally support it. So I look forward to science being exciting and kids getting new science materials. So thank you.
Thank you, and I do want to just quickly thank the committee members as well, both my team who helped lead it and those folks who dedicated a tremendous amount of time and effort to serve on the committee. As you heard, these were not short, easy-to-read books.
No, and the vocabulary is always challenging,
Yes.
isn't it?
So thank you to that team,
Mr.
that committee.
Dyer?
Call the vote if we could.
You want to call the vote?
Yes.
Okay. All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed?
No.
Okay, so it passes 4-1. All right. Action agenda item 8C, public hearing for the adoption of the revisions to School Board Policy 0165. I know I have a handwritten piece of paper around here somewhere. It's not that one. Okay. Just got to get it ready. All right. So this item deals with the adoption of revisions to School Board Policy 0165. Dr. Moore, have you documented that this public hearing was properly advertised in accordance with state statutes?
Yes, ma'am.
We now recess this meeting to conduct the public hearing as advertised. The public hearing is now in session. Dr. Moore, are there any written responses to the advertised public hearing to be read at this time?
No, there's not.
Okay. The public is invited to address only this issue at this time. Is there an individual representing an organization on his own personal or public interest who wishes to speak? I do have one speaker that put it in writing, Ms. Pippin.
Thank you. So I did speak about this last time it was brought up, and now we're to public hearing. And the item that I spoke last time is still in this policy. So I'm going to read it again, and maybe you guys can have a conversation about it again. Maybe it wasn't heard last time it was discussed. We approve the policy, everything except for the superintendent maintains the discretion to direct staff to alter camera angles for video recordings to address acute concerns related to safety and decorum of the meeting. As you can see, we have law enforcement in the room. Whenever there's been a problem with decorum, they are amazing. They handle it immediately. And then, you know, Dr. Moore is not going to be here for forever. So this could be another superintendent that comes in 10, 20, 50 years from now, and they're going to be looking at this policy, and they could just change it for any reason that they deem appropriate. I mean, it could be because somebody says something. They could be changing something because of the color of skin. I mean, there's so many reasons why somebody could change the camera angles. So it's our recommendation to keep the cameras on, stick to your policies as they're written now. It's on you guys during YouTube, it's on the citizens when they're speaking, or on cabinet when they're speaking. And if there's a problem with decorum or a threat or anything that we've had in the past, rely on your law enforcement that's here that does a wonderful job in protecting us every single time. And keep the cameras where they're at, please, and thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else that wishes to speak to this item? Mr. Kenny.
How is everyone this evening?
Please speak to the item.
I want to thank Amy and welcome to the board.
Oh, my God.
I just want to go and look at the cameras in this room are part of a public-private partnership that's in legislative law, Florida Statute 610. So back in the day when it was just cable network, cable operations, a cable company had to literally negotiate with its jurisdiction where they wanted to do distribution of programming. And one of the things they had to do is they had to provide public access channels for government and TV for the purpose of the public interest. So these these meetings could now be broadcasted. Some counties, the cable companies were only required to provide distribution. I think that's how it works in Indian River in regards to Comcast. Other counties actually built out the studios in all the government buildings. And they could not get the license without it to distribute programming because it was sort of like a monopoly. They'd be the only cable system in town. Now we have satellite, etc. But that's why these cameras are here. They were here to be provided for the people. And so the people are how this thing should be directed, not one particular superintendent or other administrator or other bureaucratic soul. Okay? And the reason I say that is because these are evidentiary proceedings. Public comment is an evidentiary proceeding where people come and present evidence and their petition or grievance to the board, and they say things, and they do things. We had an incident here not too long ago where a man wore a threatening t-shirt against a citizen here, and it was immediately taken care of, and the evidence was provided by the cameras. Even when the cameras were only coming from one direction, they were still provided. And it actually gives a transparency, not only in the public comments and all the other comments that happen here, but it also gives a transparency in situations like that. So for someone to actually take control, I think this guy's a great guy. I don't think he's ever going to do anything crazy or tyrannical. You don't become the best superintendent in the state by being tyrannical. You come by being collaborative. But all that being said, none of us are here forever. And this is about governance and establishing simple, transparent government that anyone can come in, sit down, and operate. And that's why I'm against this. So I yield back to you all. Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else that would like to speak?
Hi, guys. Great job that you're all doing. But I agree, the cameras should stay on. It offers transparency. People can't always come to the meetings. They can see what's going on. They can see the emotion. It offers more than what you can imagine. Watching your government work, watching your school district work, it's important. So keep the cameras on. Don't give them to one person to manage. We don't want big government. We want little government. And even in the school, you want to leave it up to the people. Okay? Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else that would like to speak? All right, I'm going to announce that the public hearing for the School Board Policy 0165 has been conducted pursuant to notice, and ample opportunity to address this issue has been provided to all. The board meeting is reconvened at this time. I'd like to call for a motion to approve the adoption of revisions to School Board Policy 0165.
So move.
Dr. Jones?
Second.
Mr. Dyer? Any discussion, board members?
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about it before. I think really purely from a policy standpoint, it bothers me creating a situation where something could be abused in the future. And that's not a denigration of anybody that's here today as Thomas Kenny just said, none of us are going to be here forever. And the way it's worded, you know, you could give mandates to the person in charge of the controls that they could do various things without even any live communication. So, you know, this really does not take the superintendent to make any immediate decision. The future superintendent could just have like an unwritten policy discussed with the person in the back room, that if this or that happens or somebody does that, then we would change the camera, get rid of the cameras. And it sounds outlandish, and it's because, you know, most people generally think good things and good things of other people. The problem, you know, we have so many people who do not think like that, and we have to prepare for those individuals occupying our government. As they, you know, we saw, and I brought it up last time, many examples in FEMA where people's houses were destroyed. They're in a disastrous situation. They have no power, no food. They have children. They have elderly that are needing of assistance in an emergency, and the people whose job it is to go help them are skipping their house simply for a Trump sign. So that's how deranged some of these people are. They cannot help somebody in their time of most need simply because they wear a sign that they don't agree with. And like I said, most of the people in the community can't fathom that, but unfortunately these types of individuals exist, and we need to create a government space where it can't be abused by, we'll just say, deranged individuals that eventually will come along.
Okay, Ms. Rosario?
Yeah, this is not something that I obviously support for the very reasons that Dr. Posca just mentioned, and for what the citizens mentioned as well. This actually is worded where the superintendent maintains discretion to direct staff to alter camera angles for video recordings to address acute concerns related to safety and decorum in the meeting. But there is no distinction as to what actually would be considered a safety or a related concern to safety and decorum. And I think that's something that we need to discuss. It is not the superintendent's meeting in which this is happening. This is the board meeting in which the board determines what happens in their meeting. So that's something that the board, I believe that the board corporate should address. I also had a question for our attorney, Mrs. Enville. If you wouldn't mind, as I was listening to some of the comments, and I know that we're going to talk, because I'm going to put on our next workshop the item that we were talking about earlier with regard to the policy on public participation. And that's coming to us later on. But as I was thinking about that and thinking about this item here, isn't there a chilling effect to the process? There's a standing tradition of something that is done because this is the way it's done. It's the way of the work. And if all of a sudden that is taken away, is there a chilling effect to that in terms of constitutional rights? Could that be interpreted as a potential lawsuit later on down the line when maybe someone interpreted an issue with decorum when really there wasn't? I'm not sure how that would work. Just your thoughts on that.
Chair, I think that we can't control what someone's going to do, you know,
Right,
in the future,
exactly.
bringing something forward. Could it be argued that? I suppose it could be. But there is no legal requirement to have cameras. There's no legal requirement
Right.
to do that. And just because we've done that in the practice before, things sometimes change depending on circumstances. There
Right.
might be new technology. There might be, you know, there was a time many years ago we would just audio record and not, you know,
Yeah.
video record. So things change, and the statutes have not caught up to the technology that's available. You know, like look at the way we're still advertising in the newspaper when there's, you know, more efficient and electronic means that we can do. There's some,
Yeah.
there've been some changes, but there have been hoops put in there for us to jump through. So does it have a chilling effect? It can certainly be argued that it does, but it's not anything that's required by law.
So would it be appropriate, I mean, in your legal opinion, since we're having this conversation, rather than have policies come back to us over and over again, my thought is maybe tabling this until you had an opportunity to vet the chilling effect or the potential for a chilling effect, and maybe possible conversation that we're going to have with the other policy, and maybe that and this one together, there might be a correlation between some of the changes.
I don't know what the boards, would like to do, because this has already gone through the policy revision process, and you've had your workshops and everything like that. I
But
mean,
we
could
didn't have
certainly-
you.
Huh?
We didn't have you.
Oh, that's okay. I think it's more of like an operational aspect that you're adding into your policy. So it kind of depends. I don't know if you have if the board as a whole has specific thoughts on where the cameras should be placed. I do think that sometimes it can be distracting, because the whole point of having public comment is so they can address the board. It's not so they can be on TV and their
Right.
face can be faced one way or the other. It's their opportunity to address you all and bring something to your attention. So they have that ability. They have that ability by law on propositions before the board, not necessarily on general comments. So it's really up to you all what you want to do. I think you can put it in the policy. I am doing with respect to the public participation policy, there was a restraining order that was entered against Brevard, so that they had to, because they haven't had time. Of course, the Chapter 120 process is cumbersome, as you know, and it takes some time to go through. And so there was a restraining order that was entered into that says just because you haven't had time to revise your policy doesn't mean you can't do something that's been found to be unconstitutional. So we are going to do a look at that, and along with, like Dr. Moore already said, when Chair was reading her script about public input, it needs to be revised accordingly, as does our policy. So we're going to take a look at that. So it's really up to the board if you want to table this one and move forward with this, and we can look at it again when we bring the proposed revisions to policy 0169.1.
Would there, I know you may not have read the full Brevard court case yet. Do you suppose there might be something in there that might affect this?
Not this particular policy that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I did find the restraining order the temporary restraining order is issued as 8 pages, and I'll be happy to send that to you all. It doesn't, it's fact specific to Brevard and what their policy says, which is kind of similar to what yours does, but we're going to bring proposed revisions to that too.
Yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Okay, Dr. Jones?
Citizen input is very, very important. I think I said this last time. I don't think citizens come here to see themselves on TV. I think they come here to speak to the board. And even though we allow citizen input on everything by law, it is just the action items where we really need to listen. I certainly understand the concern, but I do believe it's okay for the superintendent to have the last call on this, because he may see something or his staff may see something. And if a new superintendent comes in, then the new board looks at the policy and changes it. So I'm okay with how it is.
Mr. Dyer, did you want to speak?
I think if no additional comment, and I'll call the vote if nobody else has discussion. You have discussion.
Yeah, I haven't
Excuse me.
spoken yet, if that's okay. All right. So, like you said, Ms. Envold, that we don't have to have cameras at all. And sometimes it's an entertainment to sit home and watch these meetings. Sometimes it's really beneficial for us to be able to go back and watch something that was said. And I think that's important that we do have the cameras. So I'm not about taking cameras away. But I also know that some people abuse it, and they come here to get on camera and to say things. I was here long enough years ago where people would come with signs, because we had to get rid of those, and we've had that recently where somebody brought a sign that was extremely inappropriate and showed it. And had we had this policy where we changed that, the superintendent would have been quickly able to move the camera away and not have that exposed to the community. And a good example is that shirt that was here. Had that been able to be away, it wouldn't cause such a ruckus in the community, and the person that it was directed to wouldn't have had that pointed out. I think there are times that, you know, we need to trust the person in charge. He's done a pretty darn good job. And I think that I trust him, and all our policies, like you'll see several of them, I believe 69 policies tonight are being revised. Policies are revised all the time. So when a new superintendent comes, this policy can be revised. But I truly support the superintendent being able to do that. He probably will use his phone to message our people to say, move the camera, and if that's the case, there's a public record. So you can find out exactly why he did that or what happened. So I have no problem with supporting this. Okay, so with that, I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
No.
No.
Okay, so it passes 3-2. All right, action agenda item 8D. This is a public hearing for the adoption of the revisions to school board policies. Purpose of these revisions is to be consistent with federal and state law, the Florida Administrative Code, other regulations by federal and state agencies, applicable court decisions, and the Attorney General's opinions. Policies were revised in conjunction with Neola Volume 25, Number 1, Special Policy Update, and March 2024 Special Policy Update. The changes, updates include a total of 69 policies, 53 policies with revisions, 8 with technical corrections, 1 rescinded policy, and 7 new policies, all listed below. You have the list. It's very long. Okay. This item deals with adoption of revisions to school board policies as indicated. Dr. Moore, have you documented that this public hearing was properly advertised in accordance with state statutes?
Through the chair, yes.
We now recess this meeting to conduct the public hearing as advertised. Public hearing is now in session. Dr. Moore, are there any written responses to the advertised public hearing to be read at this time?
Not at this time.
The public is invited to address only this issue at this time. Is there an individual representing an organization or other own personal or public interest that wishes to speak? We did have one written. Ms. Pippin, did you have one that was written? Because I don't have the writing, but I was told you wanted to speak to every action item.
I filled out a form for it.
Okay.
It just says all policies on it.
Oh, I see it here. Okay.
Okay. So real quick, this is going to be super quick. So out of the 315 pages, we had a bunch of members split it all up because that's too much to read, especially after the curriculum stuff. Student Affairs and Advocacy section, page 67, has Mr. Eric Seymour added for Assistant Superintendent, and he's retired, so that's the only correction we found. Great job to the district on this. Thank you.
Okay, I believe that was found by our attorney as well, which, hold on one second. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to this item? Okay, the public is invited to address only this item. And the announced public hearing for the adoption of the revisions to school board policies have been conducted pursuant to notice, and ample opportunity to address this issue has been provided to all.
Madam Chair, if I may, still
Before I
during public
gavel?
hearing? Yes, please.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm so glad she brought that up. That was one of my things. So as I get acclimated to your procedures and your policy revision, during my review of proposed policy revisions, there needs to be a technical correction, exactly what Ms. Pippin identified. Policy 8420, emergency evacuation of schools, provides that the individual who is responsible for contacting primary emergency response agencies and parents, it used to be Scott Bass, and so during your proposed revisions, it was amended to Eric Seymour, who you know retired earlier this month, and so the recommendation is to change the individual to Beth Crisafulli, Assistant Superintendent of School Management and Leadership, who will now serve in that role. And that's a clear technical correction in accordance with Section 125.4 of the Florida statutes and your own policy 0131.1 technical corrections, which authorize alterations not affecting the constructions or meaning of those sections, subsections, chapters, and titles or policies as a whole. So the request is to approve the substantive revisions that have gone through the policy revision process and the technical corrections that I just described, resulting in an amended version of policy 8420, naming Ms. Crisafulli. And then I have one more for you.
Yes, I was going to say
Okay.
1210, right? Okay.
So during my review of the proposed policy revisions in preparation for today's meeting, I also discovered a Scrivener's error in policy 1210, Standards of Ethical Conduct, that I want to discuss. This is the policy that incorporates amendments to Rule 6A 10.081 Florida Administrative Code, which is your principles and professional conduct for the education profession. On the agenda that's under item 8D, it's in the second document attached, the agenda item titled Superintendent, starting on page 7 of the attachment. Under the Standards of Ethical Conduct heading at the top of page 8 of the attachment, it sets forth the disciplinary principles with which district administrators are to comply. Subsection 6 currently reads, the district administrator shall not intentionally provide classroom instruction to students in pre-kindergarten through grade 38 on sexual orientation or gender identity, except when required by the Florida statutes. The sentence to grade 38, in my opinion, is a Scrivener's error because, number one, we don't have grade 38, and number two, the proposed revisions were specifically written to comply and be consistent with Rule 6A 10.081, which specifically says students in pre-kindergarten through grade 8. So I am a person who usually provides conservative legal advice, and I'm going to do so in this particular case. Though I think this is a Scrivener's error that could be resolved through the technical correction process, in the interest of caution, I think we need to issue a notice of change, which is authorized under Section 120.54, subsection 3D of the Florida statutes, governing the rulemaking process, which provides that any change other than a technical change that does not affect the substance of the rule must be supported by the record of public hearings held on the rule. And when any change is made in a proposed rule other than the technical change, the adopting agency shall provide a copy of a notice of change. So the effect of the notice of change, it's not used very often. And I don't know that this board has ever done a notice of change. It's not used very often throughout the state. In my experience as at the county level and as the district level, not used very often. But the effect of it is that it moves the effective date of the policy forward by 21 days after the final public hearing. So in this case, the Florida School Board, if you approve it tonight, the other policies will have effective date of tonight, but your revisions to policy 1210 actually will have, as amended, will have an effective date of February 17th, 2025, which is 21 days after. So I've prepared a notice of change and we'll be posting it on our website with a copy included as part of the minutes from tonight's meeting. And so the request is to approve the substantive revisions that have already gone through the policy revision process and the additional revision that I've just described, resulting in an amended version of policy 1210. So, to bring this to fruition for you, if it's helpful at all, if these two changes meet with your approval, a motion can be made to approve the proposed revisions to the policies as presented and approve the versions of policy 1210 and policy 8420 as amended during this public hearing.
Thank you.
Amen.
Would someone like to make that motion?
I
Oh,
make a
wait,
motion.
Hold on, I'm going to gavel first. Okay. The board meeting is reconvened at this time. Someone like to make the motion?
I make a motion.
Okay.
And I second.
Amen.
Second.
Okay, a motion for what the attorney just said. Got it.
I'll get you that.
And that means we're getting rid of 30 grades, just so you know. All right.
It should be through grade 8, clearly.
Through 8. instead of through
Okay. Any discussion on that?
No.
Okay, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And we're voting as amended. Anyone opposed? 5-0. Thank you so much for
Thank
that
you.
catch. We appreciate it. Good catch. All right, at this time, we're to discussion items. There is a discussion item. A, Black History Month with Dr. Jones.
Thank you very much. As all of you know, Black History Month is the month of February. And on our gallery, I noticed, and I was glad to see this, it says, Florida is committed to teaching students about African American history and the role African Americans have played in Florida's success, said Commissioner of Education Manny Diaz. And I guess when I talked to Dr. Moore about this a little bit, maybe about a month ago, I just want to make sure that I see on our gallery everything that the schools are offering. I used to go to quite a few of these, and I see where the number has dwindled a little bit. Last year, I just want to give an example. I went to Vero Beach High School for a program after school about 3 p.m. In the audience, we had 10 members. It was not done during school, and it was absolutely beautiful. We had our students performing with chorus, band, orchestra, and drama, and there was true detail of African American history. And I just want to make sure these kind of things get posted on the gallery. And through our social studies classes, when you look at the alignment of African American standards, our students could see these during the day. Now, if the parents don't want them to go, as someone said earlier, you don't have to go. But I just want to make sure that we see where these programs are so board members can attend and that they are offered during class or at least at a time when parents could go at night, because I know a lot of the parents could not even get there because it was at 3 p.m. So I just wanted to make mention of that and see if, Dr. Moore, if you know of any activities that are happening, that we could get them on our calendars and get rolling with this.
Through the chair, we have a full slate of activities, and we'll make sure Ms. Maddox has that information shared.
Thank you very much. Does that be shared soon because February's coming up?
Yes, we have an assignment right now for our principals in our internal hub, and they are submitting all of their Black History Month activities. We'll be putting that list together, and we'll share with board members and on our website. And we're also doing our featured Black History Month gallery, where we recognize someone every day who has made a difference in Florida's Black history. And we'll be posting that every day in a gallery in our website gallery and on our social media.
Thank you very much.
Any other board members like to speak to that discussion? I'd just like to add, how about Literacy Week activities? Hadn't seen anything until today.
So
And
a
it's this
newsletter
week.
was shared with board members and with the community that highlights all of the different Literacy Week activities that are scheduled at each individual school. The C&I team collected that on a template that the state provides, and we put that together in a newsletter to share with you. And we also have an initiative that we are kicking off in February. You can see a sample of that on the dais for our Spotlight on Stories to celebrate the joy of reading. We're currently working on selecting a book for elementary readers that we're asking them to submit a recording, or teachers or staff to submit a recording of them reading the book of the month. Similar to what Ms. Rosario brought up with the Wonky Donkey at the last board meeting. We're going to continue that on February through the end of the year. So it'll fall right after Celebrate Literacy Week Florida.
When was that newsletter sent out?
The newsletter was sent out today.
About Literacy Week?
About Literacy Week, yes.
It was sent out today?
Yes.
And Literacy Week is this week?
It is this week, yes.
Okay. The Spotlight on Stories, this that we received on the dais today, is that what you're referring to?
Yes, that will begin in February.
Okay, and is there a specific book that's going to be read?
That's the book, that's what we're working on choosing right now. That's a sample of
Okay,
what it
Monsters
will
Love
look like
Cupcakes.
each month. That was a book that was selected that Mid-Florida brought into our schools. But for February, we are looking for a book that would highlight Black History Month.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, if you could let us know what that is, that'd be
Will
helpful.
do.
All right. That was the only discussion item that we had previously. Mrs. Rosario brought up 3 more for tonight. The first one is School SBAE Council.
No, not council, conference.
Conference.
So I have some things here that I want to give the board, but I kind of collated, so just
Take
one of those, yeah. So I went to a a conference last week, School Boards for Academic Excellence, and it really was excellent. It was a great training, I guess you could say, conference, symposium, whatever word you want to use. And so these were some of the things that I just kind of took away that were extra that I just wanted to share with you all. One of the sessions that I went to was a session on Robert's Rules that was outstanding. It was so good. I know that we had a Robert's Rules training, virtual training with Barbara Proctor, I think last year, professional parliamentarian. But this gentleman, his name is Bill Gilmeister, and he was so good. He was so good. It was 2 parts. And a lot of what I gave you it came from his session. There were two parts to it, and what I loved about it was that there was a reenactment of a scene, and I gave you all that script. It's called the School Board Defensive Battle Script. It was so good, but it was everybody has a role to play, and then you kind of role play right through it. And it's long, but once you get like 3/4 of the way in, you kind of realize how important Robert's Rules is to some of these really complicated situations. Nonetheless, I just thought it was fascinating. I wanted to share it with you all. There's a defensive tactics with scripts sheet there, and another little kind of chart on Robert's Rules, and the order in which it should happen, which I have not seen before. I've seen things to do, but not the order in which it should happen. Actually, I have an extra one. I'm going to pass it down to our attorney, please. Sorry. And the call to order is really in the order in which it occurs. As you see those numbers on the left from number 1 to 13, that's the order in which you should address items. And so anyway, without going into the entire training, I just wanted to share this with you all to kind of look it over. I know we have a new board member on, and I don't think anyone can ever get enough of Robert's Rules. It's always so fascinating. And like I said, this one was a 2-part session. You probably could do 3 parts with this gentleman. Super, super professional, incredibly knowledgeable. And the title of the sessions were How to Run a Successful School Board Meeting, Part 1 and then Part 2, where you learn tactics for defeating or supporting a main motion. Very, very interesting. So if you all, at some point, maybe in the future, if you ever want to reconsider having someone else come in, a different perspective on Robert's Rules, I know Ms. Envil is big on training, and I see you shaking your head, so I don't think you can ever get enough, honestly, of that. I love that stuff. So, nerd coming out here. And brief history, yeah, I know. Brief history of parental rights in America, another organization that was there, which was pretty interesting, Parents Defending Education. I've seen them and their, things that they kind of put out on social media, but I never met them in person, nor have I seen their material. Very, very interesting. Very nonpartisan, very interested in just providing support for parents and resources when and where necessary. Even on legal issues, they have an attorney on their organization, so they're pretty well established. So, and something else that was interesting, and I didn't get a lot of these, it was called Bias Response Systems, and I didn't have enough for everybody. If you want to see it, I have an extra one here. But it was just really well put together, some of this information, and I don't mind, sharing that one if you didn't get it. So I just wanted to share that with you to report back, which I think it's important for us to do if we're going to any of these trainings, to just share that information with you all. Then, the next item.
Any other board members would like to speak to that item? Okay.
No, it looks interesting. I'm going to take a look at it.
Take a look. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Go ahead, second item.
Second item. So the next item is classical curriculum and name. Just like a public update on that, Dr. Shafty through Dr. Moore, if you can just let us know where we are. I know in December, we were supposed to begin the process of getting the committee together to create a name. If you can let us know where we are on that. And then I'm going to ask about an update on the curriculum.
Through the chair, in December, you are correct, the board gave me direction in terms of naming the school, and we are in the process of doing that. As it was discussed, the board proper, I am waiting until the parents have been notified, so we anticipate beginning that process going into early March in terms of curriculum development. Within that same item, clearly stated that it would be a true classical education and curriculum. We are really, really excited about the training and the partnership with teachers to this point. It is a collective process where we're building ownership through our teachers, both in the instruction of classical education, the understanding of classical education, as well as the design of classical education. So we're well within the scope of work in terms of creating both the name with parents as well as the curriculum. Dr. Shafter, is there anything you'd like to add?
Why did you say early March? We never said anything about early March. The discussion was that this was going to come to us in January, that actually in January, the committee would convene, and that this would be a quick process, not come to us in March. You're already close to the end of the year.
I think the conversation was that we'd leave it up to the superintendent, and that's what the consensus was, and that's the action that I'm taking.
No, that's not accurate. But I don't think anybody ever said early March. That's really late. You have marketing things to happen. No one said anything about early March. You just threw that out there right now.
Hold on, sorry. Hold on.
So we have cameras, and you can go back and watch the recording, Dr. Moore, to see, what was said. But if we directed you as the superintendent to make those decisions, then go back and watch the recording and see what was directed by the board, please.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're doing.
Okay. Anything else on that?
Yeah, no one said anything about early March.
I asked him to go back and look at the
Yeah, I didn't
recording.
ask you I'm talking to the superintendent during my time. I'm not asking you to parent my conversation with the superintendent.
Right. Well, as a board chair running the meeting, I have the option to ask the superintendent, direct the superintendent to do something like that.
And you
when a
did.
board member is asking or requesting and saying that what he said was not true.
And you did, and I'm still talking with the superintendent. As a result, I'm asking him to clarify that. Where did you get early March?
Because that's the timeline that I decided.
You just pulled it out of a hat?
No.
So where did you get it from?
We circled back as in that discussion and said, what's the most appropriate time for us, me and staff, to come up with to follow the board policy regarding the naming of the district. Of the particular school. So we didn't pull it out anywhere in March. That was the discussion that was had. Leave it up to the superintendent. That's exactly the words that were spoken. And that's the process we're taking. I think what I said then is to go through a naming process with individuals and parents who are not going to be partaking in that particular school is not authentic. It's not real. So clearly following up on the item that was presented, the conversation that was had regarding what the name would be. And there are no issues. Let's not create something that is fictional and not true. The school is recruiting absolutely outstanding. There's an excitement, there's a buzz regarding the positivity of what it would be. So to sit here and say it's way too late, you're wrong. You're wrong. It's not way too late. It's most appropriately to be authentic and real in the work that we're doing, and that's what we're doing. My job is to run the school system. So that's exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah, but you run the school system based on the direction of the board. And at this point, if I'm getting questions from people from the Department of Education saying, what's your plan moving forward? And I say, I don't know. We're supposed to open up a school. This board has not seen curriculum. We don't even know the name, which I have. And there are eyebrows that are raised like, how could you do that? So now I'm gonna go back and say, well, gee, we're not even gonna know anything until possibly March. Early March? It's wrong, because we didn't give you a deadline as of March, nor did we decide that for you. You told us that you would start the process in January. When Dr. Jones wanted to rename the main administrative area in Vero Beach, that happened in a week. 1 week for the renaming and the committee. This should not take that long.
It is not appropriate to do it when you don't have parents. The policy is not applicable in this particular situation, and that was the conversation. So there's 4 of the board members that were there. So who do I work for the board? Who do I work for? Do I work for the board proper, or who is
You
it
work
that's
for the
driving
board
my work?
proper, and I'm reminding
I'm
you that the
following the
board
direction
proper
in which
did
that
not
board-
say early March.
They did not. They said the discretion to leave it to the superintendent to decide. That's what
Yes.
was said.
Okay, so let's let somebody else speak. Dr. Jones?
Actually, when I started have the information on Dr. Hudson here, it was a 4-month process. And why I think this can go pretty quickly, and when Dr. Moore said, he will start working on it, because we had to go as a committee and get the approval of the SAC team, student council. You first start with your community forum. He can get that quickly there. And then you establish a work group. And then you go into the approval of, usually it was student council, school advisory, athletic boosters, community. So I think this thing can go very quickly because you're at the school, it's ready to go. They know it's coming. People are coming in to say, yes, we want to do this, we want to stay here. And it's great that it's 8th grade, but correction, that was a 4-month process where we started that. And I do have all the details on that. I just think this one, being right at the school and not having to go in and out, and you have your teachers and your parents for a meeting, that community forum, that approval, it can go quickly. It can go quickly.
Correct, it can. And it will go extremely quickly when we have parents who have made the decision to attend the school.
Okay, Mr. Dyer?
May I ask a question of the superintendent? We're going to have a classical school, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And we will name the classical school, and people who are bringing their kids in know it's going to be a classical curriculum?
Yes, and yes.
Okay. Then will this affect the naming? I mean, I think we're going to have STEM schools. We have a dual language school. I mean, are we going to change the naming convention for all the schools that you're doing in the K-8, or just this one school? Or do you think that we should do, this is a Pelican Island, a classical school, a STEM school?
Those are 2 different questions. I think the conversation is in regards to the shifting of a grade configuration as well as the approach. Pelican is changing the approach. Other schools are not changing the approach. So yes, at Pelican, we will follow the process as soon as we have those parents in. As soon as they accept, we can begin that process to determine what the name would be based on the policy. And then for the other schools, that's a conversation yet to be had. Obviously, you would not have to change the overall name, but the grade configuration is changing. So depending on what the actual state identifier is, if it's listed as elementary and it moves to a K-8, that would be just a simple change, not necessarily changing the name.
So parents that are talking about it now are aware that it's going to be a classical curriculum?
Yeah, they accepted and applied to, knowing it is a classical school. Correct.
Okay.
And
oh,
so
sorry.
basically, 5 weeks from now, you're going to have a name, early March.
Early March will have parents, and the policy approved by this board is to engage conversations with parents. The conversation in December was that it's not authentic to have those conversations with parents who are not going to be part of a classical school.
Our March board meeting is when?
It's early.
It's early. You think we'll have anything by then, or?
No. Not confident, no.
Okay.
That's ridiculous.
Ms. Rosario?
Yeah, that's just unacceptable. Because, Mr. Dyer, one of the questions that you mentioned was, will we have a name, right? Will the name have classical in it? Something that what Dr. Moore, no, not you, what Dr. Moore mentioned just now with the committee, which, getting the parents to name the school. This isn't a, which I actually support, but it's the timing of doing it in March, beginning that process in early March, when we were told in December that process would begin in January, makes a huge difference because before you know it, the turnaround is going to be May, end of school, all done. Marketing is going to be an issue. Getting the name out is going to be an issue. It's just not okay to do it in that timeline. Now, let's say, for example, let's take this scenario. Parents get together and they come up with Mickey Mouse Academy. Doesn't have classical in it, doesn't have anything else, and they're all unanimous support for the name Mickey Mouse Academy. Is that the name we're going to go with? I mean, that's according to what the superintendent is saying now, that's what we're going to go with. And there's no K-8 in it, there's no Pelican Island, there's no tradition, there's no classical, none of that. That's not the item that this board approved. This board approved a K-8 classical in the plan that was presented to us by Dr. Shafty. And so even though, Mr. Dyer, you're asking these questions, and I agree with you, those are some of the elements that really should be in a name. Based on what Dr. Moore is saying, it could be something else, completely different. And that's why this board can't just release its authority in this particular way and just say, sure, I trust you. Because there are serious concerns there.
Okay, Dr. Jones?
Just reviewing the policy, and this is for the public, 2750, existing and new facilities. A community forum must take place prior to a work group being established. The board will then consider requests to name or rename. And that was a renewal, Ms. Mazzaro, you brought up right after we did Gifford Middle, so we would have this in place. I'm just saying that a community forum can take place, and then you have your work group, and then you move quickly with your parents. I do not see it as something that's going to take 2 to 3 months or 4 months because you are right there with the school. Exactly. It was different with me because we had to go back and forth. We were not at the school. It was establishing the community forum in the community, then going around to all the groups at Vero Beach High School, and then bringing it to the board. So I'm just saying this is a little bit more succinct because it's an existing school. We're going to rename. And this was a board policy that came up right after we named Gifford Middle. And I think, Dr. Moore, I may be wrong, but those community forums of parents, they can go like that. Yes. Mine did. You go like that, but you've got to do the work as was written in the new policy. I just think we'll be okay.
Mr. Dyer?
Yeah, I just like to say I trust Dr. Moore. I trust that you want to make the classical school a success. I believe what you say, we're going to have a classical school, and I know it's in our best interest as a community to give kids that choice, give parents that choice, and that we'll have a successful, and I trust you to do the right thing and the right timing for the district. So that's where I am.
So I have a couple of comments. One, you work for the board corporate, not one board member. And go back and look at the recording to see what the board asked as a board corporate. Okay, not one board member, but the whole board, what we agreed to, okay? The other thing I'm gonna say is, I remember in that policy, it says the parents of the school. So if the parents don't choose that school to have their child go to, they are not parents of that perceived school. So I see why you're having a little reluctance here in the timing, because you have to wait for those parents to choose that school. So, I understand why you're saying all that, and I have been talking to the principal. I haven't gotten the numbers yet, but I know that she's very excited about the number of people that have already signed up. So it's not like a name of a school is going to deter somebody from signing up for this, because we've advertised out there that it's going to be a classical school. It's going to be a K-8. Right. So, you know, I'm all for you as our superintendent doing your job. And so I totally support that. So please go back, though, and look at the recording to see what the board corporate asked you to do. Because if the board corporate asked you to move faster, please come back to us and say that. But if we said, you know, we leave it up to you to make that decision, then that's your decision to make.
So the next item on there was the curriculum. Where is the curriculum? When is it going to come to us for approval? Which curriculum? Is it the same curriculum that is being used now and you want to supplement it, cherry pick it? Or are we going with a traditional classical curriculum? What is the timeline? Where is that? What's the holdup?
There's no holdup. Dr. Shafty, you want to provide an update?
Yes, so we've been working very closely with curriculum and instruction. We have a twofold approach. We have to ensure that the curriculum addresses the state standards because that's where our kids are assessed. We also have to ensure that we bridge the gap and to provide our teachers with a safeguard. If they're going to implement curriculum, the team has to do an incredibly heavy lift to make sure that the standards that the current curriculum was going to address will still be addressed in a new curriculum crosswalk. So I know that we haven't been incredibly public with the work, but the work has been intense behind the scenes to make sure that we do not interrupt any level of academic programming, whether it's the Singapore math kits that we've ordered and looking at the core knowledge sequence, whatever it may be. We have a commitment that our students still have to perform to the standards, and that is a massive lift for curriculum, and we need to do it right.
So what's the timeline? When are we going to find out what, I mean, because this is already a year and a half now. So what is when are we going to receive whatever curriculum we're going to use, not just math? I know Singapore math, but what about all the other pieces of the curriculum?
So our commitment was that we would always do something with PI and not to them, and the fourth 9 weeks allows our teachers the safeguard to try the curriculum pieces that we are using and get feedback not only from teachers, but from families. And that's something we've been very transparent that we want the feedback of the stakeholders that are delivering the curriculum, but we also want feedback from parents. And that was always the intent in the second semester to do the curriculum mapping and then allow teachers an opportunity to explore and use the curriculum for usability.
So I'm not hearing classical curriculum. I'm hearing current curriculum that we're currently using.
We're exploring many avenues, and we want to make sure that we provide the best route.
Yeah, that's unacceptable. Classical should be classical, not what we're currently giving kids.
And it will be a classical education, which is also in the item that was presented and approved.
Yeah. If you're opening up a classical school, it should have classical curriculum, not cherry-picked curriculum, and then call it a classical approach. That's not classical.
Go ahead.
So the schools we visited they've given us they've been our thought partners. Everything that we are exploring is currently being implemented in a school, and then we go to Jacksonville Classical in the upcoming days because they're also using some of the curriculum we're seeking to use. So
some of the what?
Curriculum pieces that we're seeking to explore. So we've been to one school. Ms. Justice has done a fantastic job reaching out to Pineapple, and then we are going to Jacksonville to see what they're using because of their partnership with Cornerstone and that classical programming that they use as well. So I will tell you there's nothing that we're exploring that isn't currently being implemented by a current established classical model within the state of Florida and nationally.
Yeah, but what is the curriculum? Because if you're going to a charter school, the charter process is way different than it would be for us.
Not necessarily. True North was very identical to us. So it really depends on the management of the school and what they're using.
But they're a charter school.
They are, but they operate in tandem with many things from Miami-Dade.
I know, but their process for curriculum purchase and review and vetting is much more different than ours. Charter schools have more latitude, I suppose, than we do.
Sure.
So that's what I'm saying, is that they have much more latitude. We don't have as much latitude. We do. I mean, superintendent could buy an entire brand-new, true classical curriculum tomorrow. We could all approve it tomorrow. But that's not happening. So when you go to these other schools, what is an example of one of the, that's what I'm trying, what is the name of the curriculum, an example?
So I think we're using, I almost think that we're approaching it two separate ways. where I think you're saying curriculum, and it's a one packaged curriculum that applies to all subject areas. We have not seen that in the schools that we've partnered with. They are using pieces and then approaching it through professional learning, like our Pelican Island teachers had lesson planning through the Trivium. They learned how to take existing strategies, incorporate classical strategies within it, and help their students learn how to think from the grammar stage to logic and rhetoric. So we have not visited a Florida classical school that uses one curriculum for all content areas.
No, I'm not thinking of one curriculum for all. I'm thinking math, science, reading, all the others.
Going to Jacksonville will give us a great baseline to see. They're highly successful in what they do and who they partner with. So we'll have, right now our comparison is True North, and we're grateful for that, and we're ready to expand and see what other schools are using. It also helps create a network. We've been working with Flagler College, and they're a great supporter of classical programming in the state. So as we engage in this process, Pelican Island will be a singleton, and if we aren't strategic in looking at other schools and how they've done it, why not look at the track record of some of these schools and some of the academic achievements and use them as blueprints for our way of work, which is how we've approached it.
No, I think it's great. I think we should do that. That's absolutely correct. We absolutely should do that. And at the same time, we're, counting down the clock on the process and the vetting of the material and making sure that this board has time to approve whatever curriculum, and then you've got a plan for teacher training for opening so that the teachers can engage in the pace mapping and all the other things that, the curriculum mapping and the pacing guides that everyone else has to do.
We have commitment from Pelican staff that they know this is going to be a heavy lift summer, and they're welcoming it. So that's the buy-in from the teachers that are going to be using the curriculum is really priceless. And like I said, we've always said we're not going to do something to that school, and giving them time to go to professional learning and have a thought partner at True North or Jacksonville Classical is something that we can't replicate for them here, that all of those pieces are happening constantly behind the scenes.
Yeah, all of that's wonderful. All of those things are wonderful. That's not my concern.
Yeah.
My concern is the curriculum.
Sure.
If it's a classical school, we need classical curriculum. That's my concern. That's not what I'm seeing. I mean, I'm not seeing it.
Sure.
I'm not hearing it, I'm not seeing it, I'm not sure yet. I don't have that confidence yet that that's happening.
Okay, Dr. Jones?
Dr. Shafty, I'm sorry, through Dr. Moore, I visited K-8 Pineapple in Melbourne. I don't have my notes with me, but I did go around the school and talk to the principal, absolutely wonderful principal. And many times she talked about teaching the standards. And then I went around to see the classes in Latin. Then I went around to see where they don't have the one-on-one and so forth. So I understand what you're saying as far as, what are we doing as far as a classical school. And this is going to be a really heavy lift for our teachers. So obviously we want them to have the support and grabbing this information from True North and going up to, I think you said Flagler? I can't remember.
Jacksonville.
Okay. And then I think I went there with a parent. It was in the fall. It was a really, really good school. But just thank you for the work that you're doing, and I have no doubt that we'll move in the right direction with this. It's a lot to change a whole philosophy, if you will. I became a member of Hillsdale College email, getting all the information from them, and get something almost every day, but staying true to who we are in our county and making sure that we offer that. Because it's another option, it's another choice for our parents, and that's good.
And through the chair, the work that Ms. Justice is doing and leading at that school should be commended, because she has one foot in making sure her school is an A while developing dual programming for this, and it's an incredibly heavy lift, and she's doing a fantastic job.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to say thank you for taking your time and making sure we do it right. Jumping in and buying something quickly just because it says classical is kind of like the old days of buying FCAT materials. People bought it because it said FCAT review, and then they actually used it and said, oh my gosh, this is not what we need. So I appreciate the fact that you're partnering with our other schools. You want to get it right. You want to do the right thing. You're getting the teacher buy-in. You're getting the family buy-in. It's about the families and the kids that are going there, not us. It's about them. And we need to keep focusing on them. And I appreciate all the work that you guys are doing for this. So thank you. All right, how about executive orders?
So there have been, question around, about this really for Ms. Envo. All of the executive orders that were just recently passed, over 200, probably still counting, are any of those something, or maybe some things, some orders that we should be aware of, that we would have to implement on our end? Where do we stand as a district with regard to some of those executive orders?
So I sent you all an email before about the Office of Federal Register that's supposed to be maintaining all of them. The website is not updated yet, probably due to the vast majority of them that have been passed. It's also my understanding that the Florida Department of Education is looking on those too. There are so many, and I did not find an official resource that would list all the executive orders and or categorize them by whether they pertain to education or immigration or anything like that. So the best I can tell you right now is to continue to monitor those official websites, and even the whitehouse.gov, it's all in there, but they're not, there's no way to search them by executive order and or topic. So I don't have an answer for you other than to continue to monitor them. And each media outlet is publishing the executive orders that they want to publish. So I have not yet found one comprehensive location at which you can see them all or search them all. But if there are any that are of concern, I can certainly monitor those as I come across them. Like you said, there's been over hundreds of them already issued. And I do think that some of them that are issued, the Florida Department of Education is going to be looking at, and they will act accordingly depending on what those say.
Yeah,
and they can be challenged as well. So
yeah, I appreciate that information that you sent. I was able to click, and somehow or another I wound up on the White House webpage. And some of the executive orders were there, and like one, for example, it's titled Ending Radical and Wasteful Government DEI Programs and Preferencing. And I was reading it, but quite honestly, I don't even know if that's something. So I guess in general, my question is, as a body as the elected body here in local government, do any of these need to pertain to us? Do all of them pertain to us as well? Or do we just kind of wait to see individually?
I think it's always important as elected, through the chair, I think it's always important as elected officials for you to monitor those and take a look at them. I actually checked the Florida Department of Education website today, hoping that there was some sort of, hey, these are the ones that we're looking. I could not find anything there. It doesn't mean it wasn't there. It just depends on my technical abilities may not be as up to par as they need to be. But I do think it's important you can monitor those the best you can. That's why I tried to provide you with those resources. And I'll continue to look at the Florida Department of Education website too to see. My guess is that they're calling those that pertain to education and taking a look at those just like you will be doing. And then I do expect that this legislative session will also address many of those areas.
Okay, thank you for that information.
Any other board members want to comment on that? Okay, thank you. Moving on to school board member matters. Mr. Dyer.
I'd like to say that I really enjoyed going out and participating, visiting all the finalists for the Employee of the Year and the Teacher of the Year. I mean, it was really exciting to go out and see the enthusiasms in the school and just to see the schools in action. I mean, really exciting. A lot of great things going on here, and I'd like to make sure we congratulate again the finalists, Jennifer Morrow at Osceola Magnet and Christine Morrow, the District Employee of the Year. I also, as part of my duties of the board, they assign us to be on like a planning and zoning board at Indian River Shores, and I had a very interesting experience with that as I went and sat through a meeting listening to a couple of zoning things, getting 2-foot variance for something going on in Johns Island. And after I was over, I talked to the chairman and to the attorney of the Indian River Shores, and they said, "It's funny, you're the first person that's ever attended this meeting." And is what they told me. And as I went through that meeting, they said there's 2 things that go on. First, there's only 5 parcels in all of Indian River Shores that are developable, and none of those are going to make any significant impact on the school district. They said there's 2 things a planning and zoning board does. It sits as a planning and zoning board, which does the local variances and everything, and then it'll sit as a state-authorized local planning agency. And when it sits as an LPA, that's when it deals with big subdivisions that may impact schools and things like that. So pretty interesting. They basically said, we'll call you if we ever sit as an LPA, which in Indian River Shores is not going to happen. But I do have the contacts of their attorney and the head of the chair of their planning and zoning board. Next, I'd like to say I stopped by Datacom the other day and spent probably an hour and a half here, and I just love that process. It is so great to see how in command of what's going on in the schools the principals are, and it's great to see the support that the school district is giving those principals in making sure that every kid gets a shot of being successful. And I just really commend you. This is the second one that I've stopped by, and I would say it's just an unbelievable process, and you guys are terrific at it. And just the way that people, you can see, I saw it maybe a couple of years ago, and now I'm seeing it again, and just the way people are on top of what's going on in their school, and they know what they have to do, and they know what their plans and actions are, and the support that the district gives them to be successful, I think is just really terrific. I did attend a Learning Alliance presentation that highlighted the documentary series. Many in this room may have seen the documentary done, Senates, that talked about what happens when people are not literate in 3rd grade, and just some life stories and following them. Those same documentarians are doing something on Indian River Schools and our public-private partnership. And
Sorry, that was a total mistake. I apologize.
no problem. Roberts would have something to say about that.
So
But,
sorry. I pressed the wrong button. I apologize.
I was really what they have done to feature what's going on in Indian River Schools, and it's going to wind up being almost 2 hours of presentation. We saw it's kind of a 6-minute introduction that I'd really like to bring and show here at the school board next time. I understand there's a few edits that they're going to do to it, but it really highlights all the really great things that are going on here in Indian River County in the schools, and I think that that's terrific. I visited the Transportation Department to visit with Jennifer Eilert and the members of her team, as well as drivers and mechanics, and they really helped me understand some of the issues that are really facing their department, and I know as things come up, I'm going to be a lot more knowledgeable on them now. I understand why we're requesting certain lifts to do our buses. And one of the big findings is, I guess, that over the last couple of years, we have not bought buses at the pace that we have normally bought. So now 75% of our buses are out of warranty, where normally we had 50-50 in warranty and out of warranty. So we're getting higher expenses in bus maintenance versus those covered by warranty, but I think that we're back on track to replace 10 a year now, so that seems to be the appropriate thing to do. And last, Ms. Envol, you talked about training, and I know that you like to do it, and you'd suggested that perhaps you have done with other school boards ethics training, which satisfies the state requirements, and you do it over the term of the year. I think that could be something that this board may want to consider. I think it could be great at our workshops if we took a session and did our ethics training a little bit at a time as we go through the year with you leading it. Probably much better than sitting down and watching 6 hours of a video presentation. That
Well,
they're-
either
say,
way,
or
you're going
4
to see
hours
me
or
because
whatever
I'm
it
in the
is.
4 hours of video presentation too.
Yeah.
So.
You're
I
in
see.
the video presentation.
She's good.
Good. So anyway, I think the training aspect that, if we could work some of that into our workshops over time, if the rest of the board concurs, and training in many things, I think is a good idea. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Jones?
Yes, Captain Hiram's, our sponsors, Napier and Rollins. Just a great evening, great dinner. Thank you very much. It's nice to get everyone together and we have fun. The MLK parade was great, little chilly this year, but I go to the park afterwards, didn't stay as long as usual, but it was a great time to see all of our community out there. As I said earlier, the Rosewood parent meeting, it was a lot of fun. The most fun were our students asking the questions. Vero Beach High School, we just had, where we honored our teacher, employee, and principal and AP of the year. Again, another great event, great camaraderie, and I'd love to see that school spirit. A couple of the committees that did meet, planning and organizing, they were kind of reviewing, it's January, and they're going over Robert's rules and so forth, but the Economic Development Council, they're now going to do a strategic plan for 5 years. And they were talking about a few of the components, a lot of good representation there. And they all mentioned, say, well, we've got to brag about our schools. So that's really cool because that's bringing people in. And I thought, yes, we do. The planning and organizing, not a whole bunch as far as school related. I'll be going to Executive Roundtable on Thursday, and we'll be doing community cares and another strategic plan. So we got 3 of them going on with that county and then up there and then ours. So that'll be cool. Thank you to Ms. Maddox for putting that up, FSBA, public schools and endless opportunities. Thanks for adding that to our gallery. It's just, we've got to do something I don't think we do well at all the time in public schools, and I've been here a long time. We've got to brag. We've got to get out there and brag. Went to the classic car school at Vero Beach High School. That was phenomenal. And I just heard, who told me? The Tesla came in at Sebastian River High School. Who told me that?
Kelly?
Okay.
Did it just come in?
I think it just came in.
Friday.
Because I've been asking about it. Okay.
Friday.
Through the chair, it did just come in the last couple of days, I believe, and I think it was Ms. Bieber who conveyed
That's
that.
who it was, yeah, is in Beaver. Okay. And then while I was at that meeting, I talked to Mr. O'Keefe next door. I heard all these kids laughing and having a good time. And that was the Student Code of Conduct of Vero Beach High School. I just stepped in with Ms. Holden, and the kids were great. And they say, I've told you this, Doc, but they talked about, we still need a little bit more extra help with mental health. They do have a new data counselor there, so we're glad there, but that was a phenomenal group of kids that were just spot on. And I know we haven't talked too much about executive orders, and it will come down to us, I'm sure, on a few things, getting more specifics. But, and Dr. Moore, I've shared this with you and our attorney, we've got to keep our kids safe. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Rosario?
You just skipped over Dr. Bosco.
I put down the numbers. I'm just mixing it up. Ms. Rosario, is it okay?
You went in order, so you're okay with that?
I wasn't going in
Okay.
order.
All right.
I put down numbers
So
next to all your names.
So wanted to talk about MLK parade was really cold, but really nice. Happy to have participated in that. Yes, the dinner for Teacher of the Year and Employee of the Year was lots of fun. And yes, another congratulations to Jennifer Morrow and Christine Rogers for Teacher of the Year and Employee of the Year. And I wanted to thank Jennifer for your participation and Karen Hiltz on the curriculum committee. It matters, it means something to have parents and community members a part of these committees, because that's how we find, if there are issues or if there are not issues. And it's really, really important. And I know that you've served on a lot of committees, even at the state level. So thank you for continuing to be involved in public education and advocating for what's best for kids. It matters. With regard to the tonight for the collaboration on the pastries for Dr. Moore's event. Treasure Coast Technical College, Vero Beach High School, and Sebastian River High School collaborated on those pastries. And what I said, and it wasn't the entire board, Dr. Moore, it was me who I said, that it would be nice if they could rotate, or if they could, their culinary department have something to provide for board members and for cabinet during board meetings, or before board meetings, or in between those days that we have, workshop and board meetings, something fun, nice, and then possibly having like a coffee station or whatever, the Vero Bean out in the lobby for before board meetings. It could generate income for them, of course. People who come in to the board meetings could purchase coffee, tea, pastries, whatever they have. Rotate it, Vero Beach 1 month, next month Sebastian River, the next month Treasure Coast Technical, so like once every 3 months. I just think it's a fabulous way to get the kids here, to get people to see their work and obviously eat their food because it's delicious and they do really, really great stuff, and it gives them exposure. So giving them exposure here it can only help, it doesn't hurt. So that's something that I definitely think we should do. The state of the district, I don't think anyone mentioned the state of the district yet. The state of the district anchored in innovation, that's going to be February 6th at 5 p.m. At Vero Beach High School Performing Arts Center. So we'd like to welcome the entire community to that. The videos for the reading campaign, we mentioned it before. I'm so excited about that. Obviously, you all remember the Wonky Donkey video that I played here at one of our meetings. So for anyone who hasn't seen the Wonky Donkey, just Google it or YouTube it or something, and you'll see the grandmother reading. So funny. So obviously, we're doing the recommended list from the Department of Education, was it? I'm sorry.
The commissioner releases his books. So we're going to look back at the list of books that he has. The list isn't current, but we can go back last year, and February has really timely specific books. March, April, May, we're going to look at his list, locate the material in our spaces, and of course families can read whatever they would like, but the ability for us to share a pre-read book start to finish creates access for any family who may not have reading materials at home. So we'll cover it through the commissioner's list, through Ms. Maddox and her office, and then encourage our families to read for the love of reading.
Yes, and videotape yourself, right? Set up your video camera, set up the, the video on it, and then send it in and have those videos of you reading to your children, reading to your child, whatever it is, even if it's funny, or, comical, whatever it would be. Send those in because I'm excited to see those. I hope that they are as great as I have in my head, that it would be such a wonderful campaign to get people to start reading. And then the other item that I have here is also going to, I'm going to talk with Ms. Enville once again about this item. Ms. Enville, could you, if you don't mind, and you might not have this off of the top of your head, if not, if you can just email it, the bill that is concerning regarding the potential, if it passes, the potential of really impacting schools and, teachers and administrators at our level with regard to divorced families. That I heard is going to be something very serious. I think this board should really discuss that and see how what we can do collectively to reach out to our legislators about that. Because if you can just talk a little bit about the bill, because I haven't seen it, I've only heard. So, and I can't even recall what the name or the number is to follow it.
Through the chair, it's Senate Bill 60.
60.
And I will send you the link. But yes, it would require, it actually would be a misdemeanor for someone to release a child to a parent when it's not that parent's day. And we already have a significant burden on our schools. We don't enforce parenting plans, but we try to follow them the best we can.
Yeah.
And to put consequences on staff for inadvertently releasing child A to parent B, it would be significant. It would drastically affect our schools. So I can send you some of those. I have a number that I'm watching, but that one's in particular that I'm watching. I'm hoping it doesn't pass. I haven't really heard anything. I think they opened and closed their legislative session today relatively quickly. But yeah, things that are very concerning, I'll be happy to forward along to you.
Yeah, thank you. That I think is really, really important. To be charged with a misdemeanor over something that is really, quite honestly, it's nobody's business. I don't even see how that's even, how that's even a possible bill. I mean, it had to be somebody who had a really bad divorce.
Housing kids at the middle school.
I mean, that's the only thing I can think of, quite really. I mean, just because you have a divorce decree and, it says something on that divorce decree doesn't necessarily mean, and there could be a parenting plan with it, it doesn't necessarily mean that both parents, because you can agree outside of that divorce decree, you can agree to anything. And so if a dad says, hey, this is my day and I'm working late, can you pick up, Billie Jean? And mom says, sure, I'll be over there to pick them up. They've agreed. They have a verbal agreement and they're on the same page with that. The school should not have to rely on what is on paper and then have to worry about being charged with a misdemeanor. That is just the most ridiculous thing that I have ever heard. And so I would like us as a board, maybe I'll put it on the next, I don't know the timing of where the bill is at this point, but maybe at our next workshop, we can talk more seriously, unless you all want to talk about it now, what we can do to reach out as a board collective, even individually, and request that this not pass, not go through. I probably should have put that on as a discussion item tonight, but, I mean, there it is. That would be the last of my items. So I don't know if anybody else wants to talk to that.
Yeah, I actually do, because a lot of bills that get thrown out, kind of like this one, to make everybody's ears perk up, a lot of times they don't even get heard in committee.
I'm hoping.
So committee week got pushed back because of the snow in Tallahassee. So they haven't even had their committee weeks yet. So we're looking at committee week next week, I believe, and the week after. There's a couple in February. So that's when we start looking at these bills to see if they're moving at all. And also, the other thing to look at when you're looking at a bill is to see what committees it's been assigned to. If it's only been assigned to one, it's not going to move. If it's been assigned to 3 or 4, that's interesting as well. So that's kind of where you go when you're looking at these bills and you're saying, yeah, that one's never going to go. And you can tell almost 2 days after the bill's been filed. So it also depends on who files the bill and if it's leadership or not. So that's interesting too. I haven't looked into who filed that bill yet, but there have been a couple other bills I'm looking into that kind of perk my ears a little more, one being the school start one. So I doubt some bill like that is gonna get a lot of traction right away because there are so many parents that would be like, are you kidding me? But sometimes legislators do that just to get their name out there and get some interest in the public as to that they're throwing out something like that. So it's kind of interesting. Did Randy Fine put that out? I'm just curious because he likes to do that. So I didn't know if that was his bill or not. Okay. All right. So, yeah, because he's not in the Senate right now, is he? I'm trying to remember if he's still in the House or the Senate. So it'll be interesting to see who put that bill out. Would you like to speak now, Dr. Pasco?
No, thank you.
No, okay. All righty. So I'm just going to say a couple things. Treasure Coast Council Local Governments meeting, when I went to the one in December, it was right after the election, and Mr. Tyson, Joel Tyson, the mayor of Fellsmere, who has served for I don't even know how many years, was the second oldest mayor in the state of Florida. If he had been reelected, he would have been the oldest serving mayor in the state of Florida, but he was not. And I felt like he deserved recognition, so I asked the committee if we could recognize him, which was done in January.
Yeah.
I'd like to say, first of all, thank you to Bruce Green for going there. He knew him personally and spoke on our behalf, and also for Fellsmere Elementary for kind of presenting a musical tribute to him. And also, we surprised him, and I asked Chief Touchberry to bring him and surprise him, which I believe he was very surprised. Do you want to speak at all to that, Mr. Green?
Fellsmere Elementary and the school district in general was expressing their thanks for his 30-year commitment to education and the support that he's given to Fellsmere Elementary specifically.
Yep, thank you. It was nice that we got to honor him in that way. I went to Science Fair Saturday, and it was really nice. The kids were extremely excited.
Yep.
And it was finally warm that day, so it was nice to go there. Datacom, I went and stopped in and brought my 2-year-old granddaughter because I get her on Fridays, and she was very well behaved.
She did. I didn't know she was there.
Yeah,
She was.
and afterwards I asked her, she's 2, so she doesn't speak a lot, but what she does say is kind of funny. And when we went out, I said, you got to go to the meeting with all the principals? She goes, I did. I said, well, was it exciting? She says, yes, because I got a snack from Historians, so she liked that. The Learning Alliance annual meeting, I went also, Mr. Dyer and I were both there, and it was, I go every year, it was impressive. This year, it was moving. And the reason why is because, not so much of the honoring Dr. Moore and everything, but it was the movie. The movie was very moving. I almost had a tear in my eye. It was that good. So I'm excited that, we can bring that movie here and have everybody see it. It was only a 6-minute version of what's going to happen, but I thought it was really moving. The MLK parade was mighty cold, and thank you to the board members that came to that. The Stars Gala, always a great time, always a great time. And the dinner, which I had to miss this year because I was so sick. I did not want to share what I had with everybody else at the dinner, so that's the first time I've missed it, and I hated to miss it. As a matter of fact, thank you for the "Where are you?" text.
I think it was
Dr.
ETA.
Moore. I'm in bed. You mentioned bus drivers. I want to put a little kind of a bug out there that bothers me. I don't get on Facebook a lot, but I did happen to see a post about a parent that put something out about one of our drivers, and it went haywire. The amount of comments that people jumped on when they didn't know the facts goes to show you that social media sometimes goes in the wrong direction. And for somebody to post something that was inaccurate because they listened to their child without getting all the facts, and then never apologizing to this school district or to the bus driver that basically was attacked by several people on social media is a shame. It's a shame that people jump there. They want to jump there all the time, negative about our district, which is so sad. And I just like to say thank you to that driver for when you have kids misbehaving, and I have driven a school bus. Let me tell you, it's not easy to have all those kids behind your head. And for that driver to bring the kids safely back to the school, for the principal to deal with the behavior, which I've had to do as a principal as well, was the right thing to do and was what happened. And I appreciate that driver, and I appreciate the principal doing what they had to do. Thank you, Ms. Maddox, for finally getting on there and responding in a very professional way to all of the negativity that was posted. But there also were several comments pretty much saying that the people on there should have actually gotten the facts before they responded in such a negative way. So not much we can do about that unless somebody rectifies the situation, which hopefully someday they will. But I think, you know, sometimes when you see stuff like that, we should say something. And that's why I'm saying something tonight, because I don't think it's fair for the school district to be put in a negative light when it's not what happened. So I appreciate that. Also, there was an item that was put in the school board members' boxes this last week. Now, I just want to remind all board members that when something is put into our mailbox, a copy of it is made and it's put into the record because of sunshine law. And so we're not allowed to really throw things in other board members' boxes without Dorian knowing, so she can make a copy and put who it came from. And there was something that was put in our box about COVID, about what was in the biology books, I guess. And I kept asking who put this in, who put this in. Dorian had no idea. That's not something we should be practicing or doing. I don't know who did it, if it was a district person or if it was a board member. But really, it should say who it's from, and Dorian needs to make a copy of it so that we have it for the record. Did you do that, Kelly?
I resemble that comment.
Yeah,
Are you guilty as charged?
I am.
Okay.
And that actually came up in the workshop, and it just dawned on me that you were homesick as could be. And so all board members that were there that day, that was a request, and so I handed them out. And because you were not there, I made sure that Dorian had a copy for you.
That's nice, but she had no idea who it came from. And so I kept saying, you know, who gave this to me? Why do I have it? Should I know something about this? And she had no idea. So just in the future, ma'am.
Noted.
All right. Because we're under sunshine.
Not
Correct.
everything is
Well, that's why I
copied
gave it out
either.
to everyone.
Okay.
Dr.
so-
Moore, I'm sorry, please note that time is 9:08 on that.
So if, you know, in this case, it was a district person giving us something, that's fine. But I had no idea. And if somebody from the community does that, you know, that's something she has to note and put in the file. So I just wanted to remind people, whoever did it, that you really need to let her know.
Thank you, Kelly.
All right.
I didn't get anything in my mailbox, just, I know.
Yeah. And I appreciate that. It just would have been nice to have a little note saying, hey, this was given out at the workshop, and I appreciate that you giving it out, but she had no idea where it came from. All right. With that, superintendent's closing.
Just very excited. I think if you were to ask the team and principals, they're ready for spring break. The pace is moving at an all-time level, and sometimes I joke and say spring break, but where we're at instructionally is like it's right before spring break. Yeah. So just very, very excited about the quality of instruction. The vibe in the schools, extremely strong. The focus is right where it needs to be. So we will continue to do the good work for the benefit of our community. I think we took some drastic steps forward tonight, really to begin that conversation of innovation that we have been talking about for such a long time. And we will continue to create new ways of work that include the people who are going to be impacted by that work. And I think if we've done anything, we've demonstrated the ability to work with those who are either doing the work or impacted by the work to bring to this board a cohesive, collective, collegial agreement. And some of the work that I would be most proud of is how we engage in hard, complex, difficult conversations and collegially come together from different perspectives with one unifying idea. And that's the work I think this team is mostly skilled at. We bring together everyone from multiple perspectives to engage in conversation to enhance the quality of the support and systems that we put forward. And I will definitely hang my hat on that, and thank you all for doing that work.
All right. I'd like to thank everyone for viewing, coming out this evening to our meeting. At this time, I'd like to adjourn the meeting. The time is 9:11.